All right. It's time for Easton Stick against Aiden O'Connell in primetime in December between two teams that are probably not going to make the playoffs. UJ, we get paid for this shit. What a life.
It is indeed true. I was just talking to someone earlier today, and I was like, my bad days are probably better than most people's pretty decent days. And my new bad days are certainly a whole lot better than my old bad days. So, yeah, I'm all about it. Like, Easton Stick started chucking it up when he came in last week, and I'm just hoping for more of the same. Like, please don't make him conservative. Just let him rip it. It'll make it a lot more interesting.
A lot of storylines in this game, even though they're not great teams, but there's still a lot of storylines in this game in terms of what the Raiders and the Chargers could look like in the future. One team is already made a coaching change, and who knows, maybe Coach Pierce is going to be the long-term answer there. Potentially the other team in this game, there's been a lot of murmurs and rumors about changes being made in that organization too. So, and again, I say this with absolutely zero inside info, but I mean, there's a lot of tea leaves out there to read. And so I have to imagine that this is going to be the last time these two teams meet looking like this. There will probably be significant changes made to both teams this offseason. As for what the extent of those changes are, that remains to be seen. But quite literally, there's nowhere to go but up for both of these two organizations. In terms of, main things that need to be fixed, we'll start with the Raiders. I would say getting Max Crosby any sort of help in the pass rush would be great. They tried to do that last year. So far, hasn't seemed to work out. I would just keep pouring picks into the defensive line until they find somebody that sticks, kind of like how they doubled up in that draft that they got Crosby on in the first place, where they took Farrell super high, double dipped, took Crosby. Crosby ended up being the one that worked out. So I would say continuing that shotgun approach. Obviously, quarterback long-term, something they're going to want. Again, I love Aiden, but let's be realistic. They're going to have to address that also in the offseason. Offensive line depth, again, another year, another season of the Raiders needing more offensive line depth. There's stuff to fix here. Before we get into comments and questions, everything like that, do you have any, if you were GM of the Raiders right now, what's your step one for this rebuild that they might be in for here?
Yeah, we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the podcast, and it hasn't really changed since then. One maybe small ray of hope is Tyree Wilson has looked better rushing from the inside, being able to use that length and power, getting on guards and getting through a little bit, getting home a little bit more than he did earlier in the season. If that tends to work, I don't care where the rush comes from. I don't care what you call him. I don't care that you're beholden to the fact that he was a defensive end or he was an edge or whatever. Like, if you move him inside and he ends up being just sort of a long, lanky 3-tech and can have more success there, get him in there and then go get another edge in the next draft, because I'm with you. You can't make Max Crosby the focal point that he is right now. He is an amazing player. He is at worst a top 3 edge in the league, and he's probably not 3. So, but you can't just keep slamming him through double teams and expecting him to hold up. He's dinged up a little bit this year. It's a long physical season. You don't only need one more, you need 2 more. Even if Wilson moves to the inside and starts working out rotationally, you still need another edge that can start, and you probably need another rotational one after that. So defensive line depth, interior, exterior, don't care where it comes from. It's got to create a little bit of pass rush. And then receivers, really interesting. And quarterback, you're right, is the big chip. Are they going to go one more year with Aiden and wait? Or are they going to go all in, try and get their rookie year out of the way next year, and then be ready to compete the year after that? Because timelines are short in the NFL. You've got 2, maybe 2.5 years before things either start to age out or pay out.
Before we hit the Chargers, by the way, I want to bring up our underdog slip for this game, because I know people are going to want some sort of side entertainment to get them through this one. Keep in mind, there also is a special going on tonight, which I believe is Austin Eckler at half of a total yard. I'm not a new player on Underdog, so I don't have access to it. But if you're a new player on Underdog, you would get access to it if you use promo code bootleg down in the description below. They also match your deposit up to $100. But our entry that we have going tonight, I took QJ higher than 31.5 receiving. I'm hoping that Easton Stick comes out there and just says, fuck it, Quentin's down
Bombs
there
away,
just like he did last game.
Yep.
I took Eckler at higher than half of a touchdown, so that's basically me saying he's going to score. I took Aiden at higher than 205.5 passing. I took Easton Stick at higher than 190.5 passing, and I took Devontae at higher than half of a touchdown as well. So I am hoping that this game looks so bad on paper that it results in a ridiculously fun, entertaining, I don't want to say meaningless, but one of those games that comes out of nowhere and ends up being super fun and high scoring. That's what I'm hoping for here. Probably not going to get it, but hey, I'm rooting for entertainment here, EJ.
One can always hope. Somebody says AOC still doesn't have a picture. That's a bit of a diss, I gotta say. You're starting quarterback. There's only 32 of them at any given week in the NFL. Get that guy a picture. Plus, he's got some classic pictures. Honestly, I think it would be really the most funny if they just picked up a picture of Officer Favre and put it in there. Right?
Can't tell the difference, really.
You can't tell the difference. It's the same thing. But get the man a picture. He's a starting quarterback of an NFL franchise at this point. And I think this one does have a better than average chance of being an interesting watch because Easton Stick did not seem afraid to go deep, which was pretty interesting given, coming in as a backup, you would generally think typically that occupies more of the game manager role and not the heave it down the field role. And he had a couple of bombs last week. And, we've seen Aiden, certainly that's a tendency that's just, let's be fair, carried over from his time at Purdue. He is willing to let it rip. So you get a quarterback on either side that's willing to let it go deep and, decent receivers on both sides. Some of that receiver core is banged up on both sides, but, we have the chance to see, a classic sort of old, dare I say AFL battle where there's just bombs away, let it rip, good old school Al Davis, get fast receivers and throw it as far as you can.
I just realized I started streaming this on the wrong channel. I meant to put it on the bootleg channel. I put it on my channel.
Whoops.
Oh, well, it's Chargers Raiders. Who cares? This is a TNF game in December.
Yeah, right.
We got to do something to bring in the viewers, right?
So somebody's like, I swear. Well, all right, we should put out a tweet about that or whatever it's called now. Post about that.
I refuse to call it anything other than Twitter.
Okay, Twitter.
Andrew Crane for $5. Sione Vaki. He's been trying to get me to do a Sione Vaki video for days upon days upon days now.
Really?
Of all the time. I'm surely there would be a handful of Vikings fans that would be super jazzed about it, which God love them. But I'll probably save that for the offseason. I don't know if I'm going to do that one heading into the NFL playoffs. Let's talk about Sione Vaki today.
That is Brett's version of I'll take it under consideration.
Yeah.
That is
there's a lot of Vikings topics I could have dove into. I don't know if that's the one.
For sure.
Connor Zool for 5. Thank you, Connor, as well. Get ready for an even more embarrassing TNF performance from us than last year against the Rams. Oh God. We've had some stinkers on TNF this year. We really have. Nothing will come close to Colts Broncos. Just rest assured that I don't think that anything ever will come close to that. I think we already hit the bottom. I'm not saying we're not that far above it, but we're not at the bottom anymore. That is the absolute pit of football in the modern era.
And that's all timing too, because if the Colts played the Broncos now, it could be a decent game.
Oh, 100% would be a decent game.
Yeah.
2022 is. By the way, I'm going to drop that link to the Underdog entry in chat one more time for you guys, for anybody that wants to tail that. Or if you're new to Underdog, again, you get a huge deposit match and access to an Eckler special, which is at half a yard instead of half a touchdown. So at least that one you're going to get, and you know you're going to get it. So 1 down, 4 to go if you guys like playing pick'ems. Jawbreaker for $10. Can y'all help me get a read on Kayvon Thibodeau's season? I mean, he has the sacks, but we here all know that it's a fickle stat, especially since his pressure numbers aren't all that. I think getting a pressure and finishing a pressure are 2 different skill sets. And the best guys are the ones that do both, where they generate a lot of pressures and they finish those pressures and convert. Right now, Thibodeau, I think he's a smart player. I think he has great instincts. He's really good in terms of timing and angles on blitzes and stunts. You know, he finishes super well. Like when guys get into his arms, like he gets them on the ground. The actual like going out there one-on-one against a tackle all day long and kicking their ass, that he's not there yet. You know, he's not in that tier of rusher yet. But as a piece that you can still rely on to do their job, they're going to be disciplined. Plays the run well, in my opinion. And if you call a stunt, like he's not going to fuck it up. Like stunting in itself is its own skill set. Like some guys are really, really bad at executing stunts, either as the one who sets it up or as the one who finishes it. So like that in itself has its own value, but I'm not going to put him up against, you know, a guy that we're going to watch tonight in Max Crosby. I'm not going to put him up there with Khalil Mack. You know, he's not there, but he's fine. Like he's fine to me, or more than fine even.
Yeah, I've liked what he's done this season. I see some improvement in areas where he flashed a little bit last year. He's flashed even more this year. You're right about sacks being a fickle stat, but the pressures are there as well. You know, the pressure's been there. He's getting a few more of them. I'm with you that typically if you give him the kind of attention from an offense that Max Crosby draws on a weekly basis, their numbers would not be the same. But yeah, the pressure is always going to be immense in New York because he was a high positioned pick in the draft at a high profile position in the largest media market in the country. And it's just nothing's ever really going to be good enough unless he's, you know, Myles Garrett or TJ Watt. And that's not necessarily fair to him. I've seen improvement. He's a good player. He's a player I think deserves regular reps in a starting defensive lineup. I know that sounds like a backhanded compliment. It's not. I actually like Thibodeau and I think he's playing pretty well. Are there areas he needs to improve? Yes, there are. Have we seen some improvement? Yeah, some, not maybe the amount that Giants fans want to see right now or yesterday, but that doesn't mean he's not a solid player right now. It's trending in the right direction. Maybe not as quickly as you'd like it, but again, I'll take it.
So Connor, aka CC, said a Christmas party last night. Now it's 1 a.m. and I'm so fucking tired. Buddy, this is not the game you want to stay up for. Yeah. Okay. Like you're good, I promise. Like you don't need to do this to yourself.
You don't need to do this to yourself. That's the tagline for tonight's game. No, our buddies over at The Athletic, Robert Mays and Nate Tice, chose a very strategically positioned mid-season hiatus for this
took
game.
A little break this week.
I was like, well played, gentlemen. We are unfortunately not like you and idiots. We'll be forging ahead with our TNF stream, albeit on the wrong channel, but you know, whatever. It's all good.
So Hockey's is here. Said, cannot wait for bread string tonight. I already made it. This cloudy concoction that looks really unappetizing. I haven't had it yet.
That's so good.
This is, well, first of all, it's a drink from the office. Michael Scott's one of everything. It's equal parts vermouth, Cointreau, rum, gin, absinthe, and scotch. And again, I have not had it yet, but I was paid a generous amount by our wonderful community to make this for tonight. 6 ounces of awfulness. Also, by the way, the absinthe is dominating the odor coming off this thing. I don't smell anything but absinthe. So cheers to all of you for making me do this. And cheers to everybody who's going to sit through this godforsaken game with us.
Oh man, I'm here for the face.
You know,
Okay.
hold on.
Oh,
hold on. Okay, it's not good.
Yep.
But it's not terrible.
You didn't vomit like outright, so I'm impressed because
it's not balanced whatsoever.
Glass.
But like in terms of like, let's just take 5 other alcoholic things to cut the absinthe. Like that's kind of what it's like. The absinthe still, I mean, it's a brawl in that glass, right? They're all fighting and jockeying for position. Like absinthe's number 1, like that's king of the hill. But you know, the others are dragging it down just enough that it's palatable. Like it's not good, but it's drinkable. It's not the worst thing I've ever had. It's not pickle vodka like we had that one stream, so I'll take it.
I love the we there. That's very generous. Yeah, I did not drink any pickle vodka. I'm impressed that it's not completely abhorrent. Like, I think that's a step in the right direction for you, typically, with what you drink on these streams.
Mix equal parts absinthe and Malort and see what wins. I think the Malort would win.
Nobody wins.
Nobody's beating the Malort, okay?
Nobody wins there. I am going to jump over to my other desk, though, and grab my bottle opener because I didn't realize that this is not a twist off. So I'll be right back.
In the meantime, Jack for 5. Thank you, Jack. Morning both. Was hoping this. Oh, yeah, I guess it is morning for you guys, huh? Well, it's like 1:30, something like that. Was hoping this game would look more interesting going into it, but hey ho, what's been your take on how Kellen Moore's done so far? Overall, I think Kellen has done a fine job, or as fine as he could, given a lot of the circumstances. Now, actually, let me rephrase. Beginning half of the season, everything was going great, right? They were top 5 in the red zone. They were a top 5 or 6 scoring offense. They would get explosives. You know, the run game was up and down, but at least they had a run game. The last 4 weeks or so, basically since the Lions game, things have kind of fallen off a little bit of a cliff. And I'm not entirely sure if that's because, lack of depth has caught up to them. Obviously, Justin's been banged up here and there, and then finally had the broken finger, which made things worse. But I would kind of break it up into 2 parts of the season, which is like the first 9 weeks and then everything from week 10 after. And then it really becomes a question of like, what do you believe is the real Kellen Moore offense? For me, I'm going to go with weeks 1 through 10. And I say that because we also saw the Kellen Moore offense in Dallas be elite in the red zone and a top scoring offense and everything like that. So I feel like there's a larger sample size of Kellen Moore being good than not good. I would say the one thing that I wish was done a little bit better is I wish the run game was more consistent. Maybe Austin being a little bit banged up here and there this year has affected. I mean, how could it not affect that? But that's kind of like my only real criticism from quote unquote the good weeks is lack of consistent run game. But the pass game, and especially the situational passing game in key downs and distances and in key areas of the field, was top 5 or 6 in the league for a good chunk of the season. So I lean towards Kellen is good, but I also fully understand the criticism from the criticism that has been leveled at him this year. And is it all fair? No, but part of it is fair. So I get it.
Well, being a former quarterback, he's going to get too much credit and too much blame.
Exactly.
Because that's what quarterbacks get. And I don't think you escape that if you become an offensive coordinator and you're a former quarterback. It's going to follow you into the league. The Chargers have, and Jack, just thank you for the super chat and cover your ears. The Chargers have a unique way of wasting exemplary performances, both from individuals, from either side of the ball. They will put out half a team that is really, really good, but it gets lost because the other half of the team is really terrible and can't hold up their end of the bargain. And they end up with the same sort of middling record and disappointing their fans. And people look and they go, oh, well, as a result, in total, the Chargers just suck. And it's like, no, like I hear this about Justin all the time. He's not a top 5 quarterback. Look, he hasn't won anything. And you're like, okay, A, wins are not a quarterback stat. And B, somebody put it out today. I think it was Greg Cassell said, look, if you ask GMs around the league, you're going to get the unanimous answer that Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah. How many teams would trade their quarterback for Justin Herbert? And it's pretty much everybody but Kansas City, Cincinnati,
Buffalo.
That's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Baltimore,
maybe
I guess,
Indianapolis, depending on what they think they've got in Anthony Richardson, but it's not a long list. And so I think it's a bit of the baby in the bathwater thing where the Chargers end up having great players. Like Keenan's a great player. Justin's a great player. Austin Eckler, not at the beginning of this year, but certainly last year, the year before, top flight player in the league that, didn't get his due. And they have similar performances on defense, but they don't have them at the same time. And it's frustrating to the point where they've made a verb out of it, right? Chargering is a verb, finding interesting ways to let yourself down, lose, come in, third in the division and do it all over again. And it's disappointing. So I think it's when you look at the bulk of the year in terms of what Kellen did or what he's been able to do in his first year with this offense, like he delivered. Like they brought him in to do exactly what he did in the first 2/3 of this year. Now, does he have to right the ship? Sure. I think everybody, whether you're head coach, quarterback, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, like people catch up. Like, and you have to readjust. That's the beauty of the NFL is it's going to constantly level itself out. Offenses are going to be ahead for a while and defenses are going to find a way through, and then they're going to rebalance with rules or whatever else. And, Kellen's in that spot too. He's the offensive coordinator. He's probably going to be a head coach soon. He's going to have to continue to rebalance in that role. So does he have to right the ship? Sure. But was the ship right for a lot more of this year than it wasn't? Yes.
Question that I just thought of, because the NFL is a year-to-year thing.
Yes.
Texans and Chargers get in negotiations for a 1-for-1 for Stroud and Herbert. Who says no? I think both teams. I think both teams.
I think D'Amico goes, no, I like what I got.
But I also think Telesco goes like, no.
Super cheap. I think this is sort of the maddification of the NFL, right? Is that everybody thinks pieces are interchangeable. And we see it in draft season with like guard and tackle. It's like, no. And people do it with quarterback too. Like, I can check in this system, drop him to another system. And he's, well-liked and successful where he is. And he's going to be well-liked and successful where he goes. Not always the case. And teams are really reticent to do that switch, especially with a quarterback, because it is one of the most rare things in the NFL to hit on that. We've got one that we like, that's working, that meshes with our system. Like you don't want to screw up that balance, and teams will go to great lengths not to do that. So in that case, taking two players of similar, I'm not going to say equal, but very similar skill sets and sort of, potential, I think both teams would probably go, no, we like what we've got. We're working well with the one we have. We don't want to mix it up just to mix it up. Like it's close enough. You're not talking about an unskilled player and a very skilled player, at which point they're like, one team's clearly like, oh, we could get an upgrade. The other team's like, no way. If you've got a similar skill set and there's fit on both sides that it feels like there pretty much is, I think both teams are like, we're not going to upset the apple cart. We're good where we are.
I think the fact that Stroud is already at the point where it's like, I mean, is Justin Herbert an upgrade? Like that's how you know.
Right.
Stroud
exactly. If it's
good.
semi-even skill set, and yeah, we've talked about Stroud quite a bit this year. We'll be talking about him for many years to come.
Willis Honeycutt for $2. Thank you, Willis. Think Steve Smith finally gets into the Hall of Fame this year. It's tough because there is a logjam at receiver. He's going up against Reggie Wayne. He's going up against Andre Johnson. I'm not counting Devin Hester in that conversation. That's a whole different thing. But you also have Jared Allen on the ballot. You have Dwight Freeney on the ballot. Torrey Holt, another receiver on the ballot. Who else we got? Or wait, no, that's sorry, wrong year. I know Andre's still on it and Reggie's still on it.
Torrey's still on it.
Where's this year's ballot? Here we go. Modern era semifinalists for this year. I was like, wait a minute, some of those already got in. So we got Antonio Gates. He's probably going to get in, I bet. Hester's going to get in eventually. Maybe it's this year. Holt, Andre, and Reggie, like I said. Peppers is on this year's ballot. I mean, Bolden's on this year's ballot, which Steve goes before Bolden, but still, like there's a lot of receivers. Let's see. Patrick Willis, he's probably going to get in. I don't know. There's a lot of I don't know if Steve's going to get in this year. Like, I think he's going to get in eventually. I don't know if it'll be this year, though.
Yeah, it's a tough, is he a worthy player? I think he is from both a statistical and an impact perspective. The problem right now is with the modern era rules and the expansion of the league, they have not continued to expand slots for the Hall of Fame. And so you get a logjam. And with the new emphasis on receivers that's, been around for the last 10 to 15 years, you end up with a lot of players who are qualified, right? 1 to 2 every team. We're talking about, Torrey Hoyt. Well, Isaac Bruce already made it. And so do you take the second receiver, although he was easily Hall of Fame in his own right in terms of numbers? Like, do you take the second receiver from that team before you take a guy like Steve Smith or, Andre Johnson for sure, who was, again, sort of more out there on his own in terms of where he was with the Texans. He was certainly their alpha. And you just have too many of them because you can't just take a year off and pick 5 or 6 receivers. Like, it's not going to happen. There's going to be 1 or maybe 2, possibly 3, but that starts to, again, unbalance the ballot. And there's, now because of production in the NFL, more worthy guys than that every year. So you end up with this backlog and no real good way to sort of reset the balance. So it could be a while. It's not because they're not deserving candidates. It's because of literally the functional structure of how people get into the Hall of Fame. It just hasn't adapted as quickly as the game has. And therefore some deserving guys are going to sit on the sidelines for a while.
Nathan Woolley, $50. Thank you, Nathan, very much. Appreciate you a lot. He says, evening, guys. Just got paid and wanted to celebrate with you. Well, we are celebrating whatever this game is going to be with you as well. My question is this. If you could steal one player from any divisional rival, who would it be and why? Personally, I think Jair would fit Minnesota's scheme like a glove. First of all, you're correct. He would. Second of all, if I was going to steal anybody from the AFC South,
I'll go first.
There's a bunch
Justin.
Which Justin?
Jefferson.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, there are a lot of cool players in the NFC North that I would love to poach, but like, give me Justin Jefferson. Like,
oh, for sure.
Just give me JJ. Like, I don't care which team you're talking about. Like, you happen to be talking about the Bears. Like, JJ and DJ. Like,
it doesn't even matter what team you're talking about.
Exactly. That's the point. It's like Justin Jefferson. Give me Justin Jefferson. I love the Jair fit. I think he would be excellent in what Flores has created this year. That's a whole nother story as to what Flores has built this year. He really didn't stick with what he'd done before. He's built something, I don't want to say brand new because there's nothing new under the sun, but like brand new compared to what he was in his past and what we were expecting and going off of, which is his previous body of work. He has changed that significantly. And because of it, he's putting players in Minnesota in the best possible position to succeed. And it's one of the really cool sort of not really talk about coaching storylines from the NFL this year is that Brian Flores is doing something new and it's really, really working.
I have 2 answers, a realistic one and a petty one. My realistic one is Jeffrey Simmons, because putting Jeffrey Simmons on that D-line would be great.
Mm-hmm.
My petty one is Anthony Richardson.
I knew it.
So that the Colts just never get good.
You don't get to have him.
Leave him in purgatory. Fuck you. Stay there. rot and die. Like that's what I want.
I'm familiar. I was like, he's gonna say AR. He just wants the Colts not to have nice
I
things.
want them to be miserable. That's all.
He does not want the Colts to have nice things. It's a great question though, Nathan, and thank you very much for taking time out to celebrate with us and for a very generous super chat. That's amazing. Glad you're here. I had an idea and I didn't. I'm a little bit hesitant to put it out there because I didn't manifest it this year. I didn't make it happen, but it's based on a very similar premise. And I might do it next year. I'm just going to do it in shorts every week. So we'll see. We'll keep that under wraps, but I love the question because it's along the exact same lines of thinking of like, okay, if you could just take two pieces and swap them, like where would you get the most value or what would be the most fun or the most petty? Like you can have sort of endless categories for like why you would swap two players. But just the way you frame it is really interesting. And it makes you think like, because look, as you know, as fans of football teams, we all get to see the other players in our division a lot, you know, twice a year, home and away. And, you know, there are players that you're like, yeah, I wish he was in our colors. Like, I know we're supposed to hate him, but that guy's really good.
It's a healthy respect. That's all. Yeah. Raiders lining up for kickoff right now. And as they
I'm ahead of you
go
tonight. Woohoo!
I'm on Prime Vision. Are you not?
I am not on Prime Vision. I can switch to Prime Vision and see
Prime
if we
Vision's
sync.
so much better.
I know. So I know. Yes. Period. That's true. Period. Right now, I still find it more distracting. I've worked for a long time to be able to see the game the way I need to see it off a TV angle, because that's what I did for 8 years in draft scouting before I had any film. So I'm used to like picking out the nuances I want to see. And now they put like lines and colors all over it. And I'm like,
all the circles of like, oh, he might blitz.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, he might, but I know that because I've watched a lot of film. I realize as a viewing experience, Prime Vision is better. Ben Solak just wrote a thing today on why Prime Vision may be the future. That he said right now it's the, you know, football broadcast for nerds. He's correct. Instead of having a rules analyst, they have an analytics analyst like on hand to give you updated, you know, analytics profile stats throughout the game. And I think it is really educational. The thing I love is the viewing angle for Prime Vision. That's my favorite, is that you're basically getting an all 22 angle. That part I really do like. All the sort of extra stuff. Do you remember, you're a hockey player, do you remember when they tried to spice up the hockey broadcast by like doing the active puck stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
God, I hated that.
It wasn't good.
It was so terrible. This is so much better than that, but it sort of gives me a little bit of remembrance of that. Like, get that crap off my screen. I just want to watch I want to watch what's going on. But in general, for people that have not spent that much time dissecting the game, it is a superior broadcast in just about every way.
I just like being able to see the actual secondary.
Yes, that's my favorite, is the viewing angle for sure.
All right, 3rd and 3 here for the Chargers.
Nope. I didn't switch yet, so I'm still ahead. All right, I'm switching.
Yeah,
I'm switching.
That's so interesting on a stick route like that. First of all, it kind of took a while to throw, which for any sort of quick route in a short yardage situation, like it's got to be bang bang. Like you got to get that thing out. Also, it really helps if, instead of remaining static and turning back and presenting your numbers to the quarterback, if you could like just work away from leverage a little bit, like as a true stick route, like pivot and then move, like give yourself a quarterback somewhere to throw the ball that kind of shields it from the defender. You know, it's kind of thing that they do a lot with Justin, where Justin it's not just about throwing to somebody's numbers that they're turning around and presenting their chest to you. It's more about throwing to leverage. Easton Stick is not as consistent at doing that, to put it diplomatically.
Was it an Easton stick route?
Oh God,
I know it's a bit early for that. I'm only a fifth of a beer in, but there you go. You know what's interesting to me about the all 22 angle that we're seeing on Prime Vision? It's like really close. It's like maybe 15 yards off horizontally from the seats we had when this stadium opened to the public.
Which, by the way, for anybody who's never been to Allegiant Stadium, it's a very vertical stadium. Like you feel like you need mountain climbing gear for those upper decks. Like they are steep, but that kind of ensures that every single seat in the house is good.
Oh,
all right, here comes Aiden.
Okay, are you still behind me?
Yeah,
All right.
they haven't even snapped the ball for me yet.
Okay, they're done. It's second down. Anyways,
wow.
And I'm on Prime, so doing the best I can, trying to even us up here, but I'll try not to gasp too loudly.
Billion for $2. Fields, Moore, and Marvin Harrison Jr. in Chicago next year, please. That is a somewhat common sentiment among Bears fans is they don't believe that Caleb or May will be successful without a supporting structure anyway. And so it's like, well, you might as well trade down a couple picks to somebody who needs a quarterback, get a receiver who's going to be a supporting structure, and see what you got with Justin. Oh, here's Aiden. He's letting it go.
He's letting it go.
And it's incomplete.
Yeah, but like I said, if they're gonna keep chucking it up tonight, we're gonna have a bombs away fest between Aiden and Stick. I'm all
At least
for
it's entertaining.
Because, it's these two teams' heritage, right?
Yeah.
Coryell, like Al Davis, pick the fastest receiver you can. Like that's where these teams started out. So it's just kind of a return to the football they played a while ago.
But back to the Bears thing, it's kind of you're waiting. Okay, what's the advantage of getting a quarterback on a rookie contract versus what's the advantage of just adding even more talent around Justin Fields, who we know is a talented quarterback in his own right. It's like, do you have enough of a belief that you think Justin Fields can be a top 10 quarterback with Marvin and DJ and extra picks? And, shit. Let's just say Marvin and Alt or Fashanu and DJ Moore with Justin running it back. Like, it's a healthy debate right now of what's the correct answer. You get the financial flexibility of a young quarterback, or have you seen enough to go? It's not going all in on Fields, but it's basically doubling down on Fields and just saying, well, let's just give him more talent. I'm not sure I've decided yet. My first instinct is take the quarterback because you're going to get 6 years of cap flexibility to spend and build around that quarterback anyway. But I also know that Fields with a proper supporting structure could be a good quarter. So I'm kind of conflicted on it. I still haven't 100% decided what I think is best.
One thing you can do to simplify your equation, which will not give you the answer you're looking for, but it will make it easier to figure it out, is take tackle out of the equation.
It depends on if you really believe in Braxton Jones, which I know some people do.
I believe in Braxton Jones with support, and he's got it. If they're going to keep Tevin in the fold, they're definitely going to get a center. I would hope in free agency, but if not in the draft, like don't get pipped again. I think they got pipped twice last year. They had one up high they wanted, he went early, so they waited. They had one lower down they wanted, he went earlier they wanted, and they ended up with 0, and that's been disastrous for them. Braxton Jones has played better every week, as has Darnell Wright. I really think the Bears believe in both the play of those young tackles and the cost control of having Braxton, and again, a rookie this year who will be a second-year player next year as bookends. And everybody just keeps saying Alt Fashanu. I'm like, I don't think that's what the Bears are thinking. Like Marvin, sure, if they can get him, they're doing it. Quarterback, exactly the debate you laid out. Are we going to pay Justin $40+ million a year? Or not, because that's what they're going to have to do if they keep him. But I don't think tackle is. I think they may get a tackle, but I really do think it's probably a swing tackle, because that's where the drop off is, right? If either of those tackles goes out and Borum's got to come in, there's a serious drop off in play, and so they'll get themselves a swing tackle one way or another. But I do not think they're in the market for a starting tackle. I really don't.
Raiders coming up on 2nd and long here. Oh, God, what a stat. Negative 120 rush yards over expected. Jesus Christ.
It's not great. And another flag. We've got a bunch of flags early. I want to get to the McPain Train super chat $4.99. Thank you for that. Picked up a hoodie. Those rock, by the way. Which one? The helmet or the print logo? You got it. You can just put it in the comments. It's a Brett hoodie or an EJ hoodie, even though we both have both of them. But thank you for picking up a hoodie. You're right. They're very comfortable. I want to know if you think the number of potentially good wide receivers in the next draft will bring down the market. Yes, I 100% think that. I was going through this last night on Bears Over Beers, and you can go, depending on how many wide receivers you think get picked in a round, you can go 3 rounds deep before you stop naming top guys in next year's draft. That means top receivers are going to be going in the top of the 3rd round.
There's going to be probably 7 in the 1st round.
Yep, 6 or 7. I would agree with
say another 6 in round 2-ish. So figured 13, maybe 14 at most in the top 2 rounds. And then there's going to be another 3 or 4 that go in round 3 before everything kind of cools off. And then in day 3, it's going to be a bonanza because there's just so much depth, right?
Good ball from Aiden to Devontae Adams there. Line up Devontae in the slot. They get him one-on-one. Aiden turns his back for a second, gets his head around really quickly, and Devontae is wide open. That is not a great rep for the Chargers defense. Like guarding grass is not what you're supposed to be doing there. And yes, Devontae's a great player, but he was equidistant between the two of them, had 3 yards of separation from both of them. That was an easy decision for Aiden to throw that ball.
I'm not entirely sure what the coverage was there, though, because it kind of looked like Davis was playing the flat, and like he thought he had a hook.
I know.
What?
Not good.
Yeah. All right, looks like quarters in the red zone here. And it's still quarters and incomplete. So they've targeted Davis like 4 or 5 times already in one drive. Clearly, the plan is find 43 tonight.
Pick on him as much as you can. And, that's I was going to say, that's nothing new for Aiden. It's nothing new for any quarterback. When you come into a game, there is definitely we're going to try and focus on either this player or this matchup. Whoa. That was not particularly well thrown. They're trying to line up a tight end screen to his, I don't want to say favorite target, but one of his favorite targets in Michael Mayer. And that just skipped.
Did Khalil get his hand on it?
I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but it was not super pretty.
Because it kind of looked like they were, because either a shield screen, I didn't, the play kind of died before offensive line release, so I wasn't sure if they were trying to set up a tunnel or if they're just throwing a shield screen, but kind of weird regardless.
Yeah, that's kind of a throwaway, cross it off. We need to work on the execution there. Oh, all right. That's interesting given the play they just ran to Devontae.
So they motion out of a 4 strong and then came back on. I couldn't tell if it was a glance to Mayer or if he sat it down. Either way, repeatedly the hook zone area for whatever coverage these Chargers are calling.
God, it's like this.
Yeah.
It's so wide. Like this. These are not difficult plays for NFL players to make. When you leave them that much space, they're going to take advantage of it. There we go.
But what I don't understand is why, whether it's flat players thinking they have hook help or hook help thinking that they have inside help, what there are players that are getting dragged out of position and influenced out of position that shouldn't be dragged out of position. Like the hook zone player should not be moving wide to kind of match the guy who's releasing fast. Like that's not your job. Like don't go to the flat. The tight end is literally crossing your face and sitting. Like just drive on the tight end. He's in your area. Like you should not be widening out to the flat. It's not your fucking job.
Yeah, and we're in week 15, so that's what really flummoxes me about the Chargers defense is like these are not like high level. There was no motion there. I mean, yes, there was motion through one player,
but not at the snap.
Yeah, and the guy that caught it like didn't motion. Like you should have an answer for him. He's still there. It's not like tackle eligible or something. You've got a tight end who they've thrown to a lot ever since AOC started, playing quarterback, and he's right there. He didn't move, and you essentially just didn't account for him. You just let him run into wide open space like that. Just for everybody watching at home, it's not how defense is supposed to work. Like there is no defense where that's okay. Where everybody goes, we just leave one eligible receiver in a wide open area. We just hope nobody sees him. Like there is no defensive plan that works that way. Like somebody is not seeing it right or executing it right, or both. But
Shawshank Inception for 5. Didn't know that Jaguar Gator 9 and you were friends. Love watching both of you and Bootleg. Hopefully we have another good TNF game. I'm praying for a good TNF game as well. So I join you in that. As for Jaguar Gator, yeah. He and I go way, way back. God, maybe 7 or 8 years at this point. Gotta be. Good friend of mine. Great dude. Also represented by our same management company. He's also under the Table Rock umbrella. Also went to law school and concentrated in copyright law specifically so that he could fight copyright claims as a YouTuber. Like he's not a practicing lawyer, but he went to law school just for that. So that's how you know he's dedicated.
That's right. A tremendous resource to all the rest of us that do this and go, hey, have you ever done this particular one? Have you ever fought this particular one? How'd you do it?
Did I tell you that?
Great
so
resource.
I went to dinner with my buddy from the NFL's YouTube side the other night, and somehow the topic came up of how these small channels, small meaning like our size, right, that are compared to the NFL, like small channels that were sending like these legal form letters to contest copyright claims and everything like that. They're like, where are these guys? Like, and it's one of those where it's like the lawyers are like, if it's going to cost us more in billable hours than it is to like actually fine, whatever, fucking release it. But they get all these different notices that look exactly the same from all these small creators, and it's like, oh yeah, Jaguar Gator writes those.
Yeah,
like, people just go to him like, can you write me this form letter?
Do you have a boilerplate piece that I could use for this? The answer is usually
he's a
yes,
godsend for the whole industry,
which is super cool. While we have folks and we're actually on your channel, we should put in the plug for all those folks that don't realize that this is a thing.
Yes, there's a significant chunk of my audience that doesn't realize that we have a podcast or a podcast channel.
Because like the maths don't math. You have like what 378,000 subscribers, and Bootleg has 48,000.
Like, the Venn diagram is it's slim. The middle is slim,
very very slim. So if you are here and you are a Film Room subscriber and you're enjoying the content, do us a favor. Go over to the Bootleg channel. Just type in Bootleg Football on YouTube. It'll pop right up. Hit subscribe. You don't even have to put up the notifications if you don't want to, because honestly, if you're over here, you're probably following Brett on Twitter. You're going to get all the notifications anyways. Like, just go over and hit subscribe. It's the same stuff. It's good. I promise you'll like it.
Tomorrow's episode is basically about everything that's wrong with the Lions, the Eagles, and the Dolphins. 3 contending teams that have really struggled recently. And, we have a whole bunch of fun numbers and statistics and film observations, everything like that, of what the hell's going on with those 3 teams and whether or not their fan bases should panic, which I'm not saying they shouldn't panic, but it's semi-fixable for all of them. They just need to suddenly, somehow get competent offensive line play. Easy peasy.
Oh man, Mays just messaged me back. He's like, it was the right move.
Yes.
Oh, that's classic.
All right. Easton's coming out for drive number
pressure.
2.
Yep. Rolling. Oh, all right. I can appreciate the playmaking of Easton Stick. He has always been I'll just say a heady player, a player that is able to sort of make things happen out of nothing. And he just did that here again.
It doesn't look as, what's the word? As graceful as when Justin does it. But hey, we'll take the result.
The result, very solid, given what his options were with early middle pressure. The reason he moved out to his right in the first place was there was 300 pounds of black jersey right in front of him. And he was like, okay. And, again, uses his dump off, picks up a good chunk of yards, keeps his offense ahead of the sticks. I know that's going to be all night.
Oh, God. Again?
Yeah, no, it's not going to stop. You should just brace yourself.
Well, second and long after Divine Diablo sighting. Let's go. God, he put on a lot of weight. Holy shit.
Yeah.
He looks like 240 now.
Yeah, he is every bit as long and lanky as he was in terms of, ranginess, but he definitely has bulked up for the collisions that he will inevitably get and does get in the middle of that defense. Uh-oh.
What do we got?
We have our first turnover of the evening.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, and sack fumble. Who was that?
Well, I know who ended up.
There.
Oh, guess who it was? Guess who it was?
That Kuntz? 51, right?
Yeah, right. But it's Spillane that rushes. Kuntz is there first. Now Kuntz pokes it loose, and Spillane helps him finish. Yeah. Oh, Eason's stick is. Dude, he's lucky that Wilson didn't tear his arm off.
That was a nasty swipe move too by Kuntz. Oh man,
you don't have to sell me on Kuntz. Kuntz was one of my guys coming out of Buffalo. Yeah, Kuntz is. So our buddy that covers the Raiders, Sanji, he was when Kuntz got picked up by the Raiders. He was like, "Hey man, you were Kuntz guy, right?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, love that guy. Like super fun player." And again, has developed, has gotten better, not at some stratospheric rate. He didn't, it's not necessarily like the Highsmith profile from the Steelers, but he is a solid rotational edge player in the NFL. Makes plays, seems like probably about every other week. It's not every week, but guys like that are really valuable. He's not expensive. He's reliable, plays well within the defense. And then, every couple of weeks he does something that looks a little bit like that. Might not be as impactful, but picking up a half sack or whatever. I know people think that's not necessarily that big a deal, but like you look at some of the top guys in the league, they end up with 7, 8, 9 sacks every year. Being a double-digit sack guy is tough to do. Not that many people do it. So if you're a 3, 4 sack guy and are contributing, every week, that's really valuable in the NFL. You need those guys. And it's funny that Khalil Mack, who was his predecessor at Buffalo, comes back on the very next play and makes a play for the Chargers.
Also a former Raider.
Yes.
As much as Raiders fans don't want to think about that.
Well-traveled, but Mack really put Buffalo on the map for recruiting stops because he was just that good. He was a generational player, certainly for a program like that. And even into the NFL. And then Kuntz came behind him and played the same position, and people were had added that on their stop. And, other guys were coming out at the same time. Their quarterback came out, who then converted to tight end, and
a couple running backs too.
A couple of running backs in a row that came out. So yeah, Buffalo really became a regular stop with Mack, and then guys like Kuntz were the beneficiaries of that.
All right. Run for a little short return motion. Aiden, what you got? Hitting Mayer again. Boy, he loves Michael Mayer.
He loves himself some Michael Mayer. But look at that, where that ball's thrown. Low hip, away from leverage. I love it. It's telling the receiver, and this is something that people might not be aware of. When quarterbacks throw with good accuracy and they have an established relationship with a receiver, which he clearly does with Mayer, where the quarterback throws the ball tells the receiver where the coverage is.
Mm-hmm. Like and the elevation of it tells them how quickly they're going to get fucking tattooed. If it's high, the quarterback is telling the receiver, "Hey, you space to run." If it's low, they're saying, "Dude, you're going to get smacked." I'm sorry.
Right. And there's communication there. There's communication there that people don't understand. And again, that's on purpose.
Trey Tucker sighting.
Yep.
Aiden O'Connell. He's hot.
Give him a fast receiver and he'll be happy. Wow, he's wide open. It didn't even look like he was running that hard either. Like he had a good 2.5 yards of separation. Ooh, he controls it, but does he get the other foot down?
That's what I'm trying to see.
I don't think he does.
Also, man, you're making You're making Derwin cover a 4-3 guy on a deep cross from outside leverage. I think he got it.
Catch that.
I think he got it.
Okay. He's got to catch that clean. If he catches that clean, there's no question because he catches that in the middle of the end zone, but I don't know. He establishes control. That other foot's up in the air. I don't think they're going to give it to him. Okay, it's loose. And his other foot's already up by the time he reestablishes control.
Oh, you're right. I think that right foot.
I don't think they're getting it to him because that was a clear, like, complete separation bobble. Like, that ball is in the air. Clearly, he gets it, and his other foot's already off the turf by the time he grasps it.
Unless they think he grazed the toe. I don't think he did. He's just got it. That's the thing is, like, everybody was like, Trey Tucker's so fast. And I'm like, he is. There's one. Right's on the ground. So maybe they're saying the right was down first and then the left was 2. Maybe that's what they're saying. Which, I mean, it's close.
It's interesting in terms of continuation, but we say it all the time. Like, it's in the job description. Receiver, right? You got to catch the ball. If he catches that ball cleanly, like Aiden hit him in the middle of the end zone, 5 yards deep in the end zone. Like, he has plenty of space. This is not some toe tapping miracle. Like, he just has to catch the ball instead of double clutching it. And again, not contested catch. It was right on his chest. Like, you can't ask for a better throw as a wide receiver. You just got to catch it cleanly. And if you don't, you might, and we don't have the ruling yet, but might cost your team a touchdown.
JH for $10. Thank you, JH. Silver lining of the injured quarterbacks, Purdy, Browning, and ... DeVito. How much of this is just new guy in town energy that will fade? Shouty shows lack wisdom on this. Oh,
Shouty shows lack wisdom on this matter.
I was like,
I turned to the Jedi Council. Wow.
I was like, wait, Shouty.
Important question. What color is your lightsaber?
I'm gonna go with that Mace Windu purple for sure.
Dope color. I'm going with yellow, but there we go.
Oh yeah, that's another good one.
Yeah,
like when back playing like Battlefront 2, the all Jedi mode. I think it was Plo Koon. Other Star Wars nerds in here. Plo Koon, I think, had the yellow saber. That was super cool.
He's either blue or green. He's either blue or green.
Hold on.
So
this is gonna bother me.
That's all right.
Plo Koon. Lightsaber.
So I'll start answering JH's question. Silver lining imagery QBs. Purdy, Downing, and DeVito. I actually, it's funny. I texted Brett at the end of the Giants game when they were running the dual Monday night games, and we were talking about DeVito, and I said, man, it was like 2 minutes to go, and he was pulling off I said, DeVito's pulling a Purdy right now, and he really is. He's coming in. He's being efficient. He's running the offense, and he's not making the big mistake. He didn't throw a ton of passes the other night. Certainly didn't throw for a ton of yards, but again, he did enough to win the game, and he kept his team out of bad situations. And sometimes that is a major difference. And the fact they've won 3 straight without, again, he's not one of those guys that's going to come in and throw for 350, 400, 450 yards. Like, that's not his game, but doesn't have to be. Like, Dable won last year without throwing a lot. He ran Daniel Jones and Saquon a lot to win. So he's got that blueprint, and he's like, just execute my blueprint, kiddo. And
he did.
I mean, Tommy freaking Cutlets.
It's so funny. Like, as soon as he hit Saquon in the check down, and Saquon got like 15 yards, I was like, oh, this game's over. It's like they're giving him whatever they want. This is over.
And I just got to say, the fact that he did it in the Giants throwbacks, like,
yeah, it's great.
It couldn't be more perfect. Like, it's just so perfect.
And his agent looked
his agent's
fucking character.
It's like cosplay.
It's so
cosplay
good.
An Italian sports agent from North Jersey. Go.
And Jersey Italian is like such a different kind of Italian. It's like its own. Yeah. It's like its own subset of Italian.
It is absolutely its own subset of
Italian. I've been lucky enough to know some true like born and bred Jersey Italians in my life, and I struggle to find people that are more unapologetically themselves. And like Jersey Italians are the best. As to answer your question from my end, I think the Browning and DeVito is like new guy in town energy in the sense that, like, you know, I don't want to say that they have an expiration date. I don't think they have an expiration date, but like clearly there are things physically that neither one of them can do that top end starting quarterbacks can do in terms of like consistent drive throws down the field. You know, in terms of hitting hole shots against coverages that most other quarterbacks can't. Like, I have no expectations for them to ever be like true starting quarterbacks in this league that have to make really difficult high level throws week in and week out for an entire season. I don't see that for them. But in terms of somebody who can just come in there and, like EJ said, execute the offense for, you know, a set period of time and let their playmakers do the heavy lifting, like, yeah, they can do that. And I think that's the difference between like a really good starting quarterback. Oh God, was that another turnover? Son of a bitch.
Have we? Oh no, we have reached that portion of the evening.
No way.
Yep. Right back.
Dude.
And is that Wilson falling on it for the second time? Is Wilson 90?
Oh, that's out. That's out.
Oh, it's 100% out. Like straight up out. I did not set up my depth charts before the game, so I need to do that. And we haven't even like revealed one of the most fun things about tonight's broadcast.
What's that?
We have a guest.
Oh, yes. Well, he might be significantly intoxicated by halftime based on how this is going so far. But...
I would hope so, but
yes.
No,
our buddy Alex Katzen. Yeah. Tillery made a play? What?
Oh, God. Tillery recovered the fumble. He recovered the fumble. I mean, if you're going to talk about like very, very random statistics, like fumble recoveries, like causing a fumble is one thing. That's an action you take. Fumble recoveries is, look, it's Jerry Tillery revenge game. Yeah, we'll see. No, I mean, in terms of it's not a round ball, it bounces funny. Fumble recoveries are about as fickle a stat as you're ever going to find.
Oh man, what a disaster. We're only not even 8 minutes in.
But this is a beautiful disaster.
If you're a Raiders fan,
you know, actually, I'm not a fan really of either team. I don't dislike either team, but this is interesting football at the very least. Oh, Jim Plunkett.
Connor, I take it back. I know it's like 1:45 a.m. for you, but you got to stay awake now.
Yeah, now it's good. You got to stay with us, man. Connor's a hardcore. Connor's the guy on like day 3 in the middle of the draft. He's like, I just stayed awake. I didn't go to sleep.
Yeah, you sleep when you're dead.
That's right. Get all the sleep you need when you're dead.
If the game keeps on like this, how do the Chargers let Staley back in the building? I don't think they're going to make a change during the season. If they were going to, I think they would have already.
Yeah, I there's a lot of obviously coaching change rumors in the wind. Let's just put it that way. If a team was going to do it during season, they already would have. There's no point in, you know, assigning an interim head coach for 2 weeks. That's just a slap in the face. Like, it's not going to do anything for your fortunes. Antonio Pierce was able to take over with enough games left to give a decent sample about how he's going to run the team and what his influence is going to do. At this point, you know, you're handing somebody 3 games, 3.5 games. Oh, let's go.
The Aiden O'Connell game, everybody.
He is letting it fly, and his playmakers are paying it off for him. Look, we couldn't be happier for Aiden. He's a great dude. That's a good ball.
That's a great catch too by Jacoby.
That's
laying
a
out for
it catch, right? That is hey, this guy's going to throw it to me, and I'm going to go get it. If he's going to trust me enough to throw that thing up there, I'm going to pay it off. Gets tripped, dives, lays out, clear catch. Like, don't have to review that one. That's a touchdown, folks. Look at
That's the kind of catch where it's like, boy, these guys like playing for Aiden.
They do. And look at the touch from Aiden. He didn't throw that from a great base. He almost like just pushed it. He was like, yeah, I'm just going to toss that over the top because he's got way more arm than that, but he knew he had to put a little elevation on it.
Man, this is about as disastrous as it gets to start a game, or as good as it gets to start a game.
Yeah, if you're a Chargers fan, it doesn't get much worse than this. You gave up 21 in the first quarter to the Raiders. Look out. Like, again, Kellen's offense could come out and do whatever they want to in the next 3 quarters. They are playing from a 3-score hole. Like, that's...
And they're playing from a 3-score hole without their starting quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, you can say, oh, how's Kellen's offense doing? It's like, well, he's chasing a 3-score hole in the first quarter. Like, it's kind of like, okay, you get to come out, you get to skip first and second down. Your first down is 3rd and 20. What do you got? Like, there's not a lot of plays in the playbook for 3rd and 20. There's not a lot of plays for, hey, this is going to make up. Well, there's no plays that say we're going to make up 3 scores. Like, you got to just go out one at a time. All the regular, you know, coachisms, right? Coach speak. Oh, just gotta execute better. Like everything you're gonna hear during the sideline report for halftime, right? All that stuff. It's all true, but as an offense, like it's just like defenses that do hold up their side of the ball, and then their offense goes out and can't score 9 points during a game. This is how the frustration builds. Like we're gonna do our thing. Now, neither side, to be fair, of the Chargers organization is doing their thing right now. They've scored no points. They've given up 21. It's just kind of all falling down around their ears. But as an offense, it's difficult to come out and go, look, we could put up 20 points in the second quarter, which would be a great scoring quarter, and we'd still be losing going into halftime if our defense holds, which obviously so far hasn't even come close to holding.
Secondaries got cooked, which, boy, you know, honestly, that's one of the things that's really surprised me the most about this Chargers team. Is coming into the year, we were looking at the secondary and we're like, hey, Michael Davis had a great 2022, like a truly great 2022. We like Asante, you know, Derwin when healthy's always been good. Like we looked at the secondary, we're like, hey man, they got some dudes. Like they're gonna be able to get out there and cover people. They haven't covered shit.
No, and
the entire year.
And Davis in particular is one of the, we talk about all the great rise up stories and all the great development stories, whether it's coaching or players. We like to highlight those. We're definitely, if we get accused of anything, very often it's being a very positive podcast. And we like it that way. It's in our image. Like we would rather talk about fun, uplifting stories than dark, terrible ones. But like Michael Davis's sort of fall from that amazing stretch he had before he got injured late last year, where he was dominating guys in physical press, one-on-one coverage, and really not getting a ton of credit for it. He was playing an extremely high level. To what happened early this year is one of the most sort of like, I want a mini, like call it 15 for 15 or something. Like I want a mini doc on why that happened, because it's so inexplicable. He played so well last year, and the beginning of this year, he played so poorly, they had to change the defense. They had to go, like, we can't press anymore because he's not playing well, so we're going to play him off. And he couldn't play off either. He got cooked both ways. So then, you know, what do you do with that guy? You're like, he was good like 6 months ago. And I put him in his favorite coverages and he can't cover a lick. So I give him a little bit more space and he gets burned even worse. Like it's been really, really sort of head scratching to say, man, like I don't think he's fighting an injury. I'm just not sure what happened, because he was really good, and right now he is really not good.
Short round for $10 says college basketball teams regularly play preseason quote unquote secret scrimmages to learn about their own team / not have the results influence preseason polls and fan biases, etc. This game should be a secret scrimmage. Which, by the way, I'd never heard about that. That's interesting in terms of doing it in the dark so that, you know, people don't do preseason rankings based off of that. It's interesting that college athletics is at the point where they have to practice in secret just to get an idea of what they are.
You know, the NFL is moving towards that. They talk about less preseason games and more combined practices, right? That sounds like something that's likely going to happen, is, you know, joint practices, because coaches have a little bit more control and they're not constrained to try and put on what is kind of a sham game anyways. They don't have to, you know, They don't have to do that. They can just go, hey, we're going to do this very much, structure it very much more like a practice, right? We're going to do this in periods. We're going to do some 7-on-7. We're going to do whatever we want because it's a practice. We don't have to like play 4 quarters, line everybody up. And, look, as a guy that likes to see the bottom of the roster players getting their shot, I like the game format, but I fully understand that coaches get more out of joint practices. And, those are, if anything, secret scrimmages, right?
And they get to use those I can't remember what they're called, like the caps, caps on the helmets for them, which during this year's camp and preseason it was talked about of how the NFL might in the future allow teams to use it during real games because there's the concussion angle to it. Yeah, fine. But they cut down on quarterback injuries, like what we saw with Justin Herbert, where you throw and you're following through and you hit the hand on the helmet and it breaks a bone or a ligament or whatever. The foams on the helmets significantly cuts down on that in practices. So some teams were like, well, can we do it during games too? So maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe one day. Amik Robertson just got face masked really hard.
I saw that.
Everett. Like really hard. Amik Robertson, a player I liked a lot who, played outside even at his height in college and held up really well. And everybody said, well, he can't possibly do that in the pros. Well, he's doing it for the Raiders.
Storm for $5. DeVito and Zach Wilson won Players of the Week. Who would have thought? If you told me that a month ago, I would have called you insane.
Yeah, 100%.
But here we are.
Yeah.
You never know with the NFL.
So speaking of interesting visuals, the guy that lined up on QJ outside last play, Amik Robertson, like for those of you following along at home, is like 5'8 plus, 5'9. Like, and QJ is 6'4, 6'3.
6. Well, it depends on who you ask.
Yeah, 6'3 and change.
My favorite was Amik in college lined up. It was when they were playing Texas, I think it was. It was Colin Johnson, right?
Yeah, Colin Johnson.
6'5", 230 pound Colin Johnson.
Okay. It is. It's the Jerry Tillery revenge game. It's real.
I can't imagine anything worse for Charlie. Like they can lose this game, but allowing Jerry Tillery
to be the guy that
to flourish, like they can't tolerate that. That is enemy number one in Charger land.
Yeah, he is, let's say, non-beloved by Los Angeles Charger fans.
God. Well, this game's going about as poorly as it possibly could.
Again, depends on by whom. If you're a Raiders fan, you think this game's rocking right now as a home contest. You're like, I bought tickets to the right game. I get to see my team play well.
For people who are wondering where the score bug is, by the way, we're on StreamYard for this stream, so unfortunately we can't do a score bug because we can only do the score bug when we're on
OBS.
What do you call it? OBS, but StreamYard doesn't let us do it because we can't.
OBS doesn't let us do 3 people. So if we're going to have a guest, we get no score bug. If we have a score bug, we can have no guest. So
one of these days, somebody will invent a proper, good streaming platform that lets us do all of those things simultaneously.
That is not anywhere near as finicky as OBS.
Hey, we haven't had any issues this year so far.
This year. Yeah. Where's the nearest piece of large slab of wood for you to knock on? Oh, man.
Q Johnson for $2. Brett, you got your wish. Mizzou versus Ohio State. Yes, that was all I wanted. Now, I also wanted Marvin to play in that so we could get Burden and Marvin on the same field together, but I highly doubt Marvin's playing in this game. He hasn't officially announced it to my knowledge, but I would be stunned if he did. However, Ibuka might play in this game, or at least seems like he is going to play. I don't know if they've made that official yet either, but he's talking like he is going to, which then brings up the point. Does that mean Ibuka is going to go back to school if he's playing in this bowl game? Possibility, considering the receiver class that he's in. Because in most other classes, he'd be a top 3 or top 4 guy. In this one, he might be 6, 7, depending on how you got him stacked up. So, we'll see if Ohio State throws some money at him to stay, and then he goes into a weaker receiving class next year. But either way, Ibuka and Burden on the same field together would be fireworks. So I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, there's no shortage of receiver talent, and that's not only the guys that are coming out, but also many guys that are not coming out like Burden. So it's yeah, I don't think we talked about this last year and the year before as well. We just don't think that pipeline's going to shut off. It's been established now, certainly through youth football and 7-on-7 camps and more wide open college offenses. And it's just creating receivers who have so many thousands more reps by the time they get drafted into the NFL. They're so much farther along than receivers were 10, 15 years ago. Just based on those numbers alone, that we see it every year. There are rookie receivers like Zay Flowers who come in and make immediate impacts for their team that are high level. Like Zay Flowers is the leading receiver on the Ravens by a bunch. Like nobody's close. The Ravens are not a bad team. Like it's not a bottom feeding team that he got drafted onto. And it's like, oh, well, it's the only receiver we have. They have freaking OBJ on that team. So like rookie receivers there are more of them, and they are more ready than they've ever been when they hit the league. And I just don't see that turning around anytime soon.
Brett, you didn't let me buy you a beer when you were in Colorado. I will forever be a tiny bit upset. That's from I don't use this account anymore. Well, in my defense, there was a huge storm that came in and shut down the pass. So you couldn't have got to me even if you wanted to for like half those days. But, I want to come out to Denver for an actual game. I didn't actually go to a game when I was there. I was just up in the mountains. But I do want to come back to Denver for a game now that I know I can go to Colorado without getting crippling migraines from the altitude. So maybe next year.
I was not aware that was a potential liability.
Oh, yeah. The last 3 times, like even just connecting on a Frontier flight through Denver, being in the airport for an hour, like I couldn't function. Like the altitude hit me like a ton of bricks. This was the first trip, and it's probably because I was literally on Excedrin for like 3 days straight. This was the first trip where my head didn't feel like it was going to explode. There's something about the altitude that's always just fucked me up.
Oh no, it's a very real thing. Like I live near the Cascades. There are plenty of people who have made it to low base camp on Rainier and gone, oh no, like I'm done right here. I need to go down, not up.
And my brother lived in the Springs for 10 years, and I only visited him once or twice when he was out there because I just couldn't do it. Like I was
sparingly, like I'd love to.
Killing me, man.
My head's gonna split. Oh, that's rough. That's rough. I did not know that was something you suffered from.
Are they calling that a fumble? No.
No. They called that off.
Project 1337. That's good. Do you think the Raiders' defense is legit, or are they just benefiting from playing weak offenses? I think pieces of the Raiders' defense are legit. I don't think they're a complete unit yet. But they do have a lot of pieces that obviously Max is Max, but they could still use another edge rusher to add into the mix. I still think they need another corner.
Yeah.
Linebacker, I actually think they're okay at now. Like Spillane's far exceeded my expectations.
And he's they're not Antonio Pierce favorite. Like Antonio Pierce. Spillane's the first guy he mentions in terms of like who's the heart and soul of your defense. He'll mention Spillane, which a lot of people wouldn't think, just having come over from the Steelers last year. But Divine Diablo is a guy that we liked and thought could play linebacker. They've converted him full time to linebacker, and obviously has a lot of skills there that they like. So while it's not the most sort of traditional linebacking core, like it more than works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a. I guess it depends on how you define good defense. It would be what, like top, like that 12 to 16 is where you're good, and then from like 11 to 6 is where you're great, and then 5 to 1 is elite. I'd probably put the Raiders in the good category, but they still need a couple more pieces to get to the great category, I would say. But they're really not that far off.
Yeah, and a good defense, we've talked about this. We talked about this a lot in the preview series for a lot of teams last summer. Like a good defense is fine. And by good, I mean higher than 20. Like, 15, 14, 13, you're fine. Like, you're great. You can win with a defense that's 16th or 18th. It's much tougher to win with an offense that's 20th or 21st or 22nd in the league. That you're going to struggle
unless your defense is 3.
Yeah, and even so, those teams still struggle, right? Because their offenses run up against, again, a good defense. Like, if you're a good defense, if you're 14, 15, 16th overall, and you run up against an offense that's 22nd, you can potentially just shut off the spigot for points. And if you can't score any points, or the most points you can score is 6 or 9, like one touchdown and you're already pretty much losing the game, no matter how good your defense is. So your defense has to be both elite and near perfect. Whereas if the tables are flipped and you've got a defense that's 16th or 18th and it's going to allow 20 points, but your offense puts up 25 to 30 every game, you're still going to win a lot of games.
For those that are trying to sync up the stream right now, I am looking at a commercial with Whitworth at a whiteboard. For those that I know some people try to hunt around and everything like that. Willis Honeycutt for 5. If you could only keep one for the Panthers, Derek Brown or Brian Burns?
Ooh,
probably go
good
Burns
question.
Personally, just because I think Burns, well, I shouldn't say harder to replace.
He's more expensive to replace.
That's true. But in terms of the sheer playmaking ability in key downs and distances, i.e., long downs and distances, where it's like, hey, we need to get off the field. We need to get off the field right now. I think Brian Burns has an overall greater effect on those key situations. In terms of being an every down player that affects every single snap, first, second down, regardless of down distance, regardless of situation, like Derek Brown, I think, has a larger overall effect from a down to down standpoint. But in terms of key situations, like we need a play made right now.
Yeah.
Brian Burns. And that's why edge rushers make a lot of money.
Yeah. And also against the pass, right? We were just talking about teams that score a lot of points. If you're going to try and cut those teams down, you need players who are specifically good as anti-pass players. And in terms of pass rush, collapsing the pocket, being able to come up with more pressures, hits, hurries, sacks, all the way along, Burns is going to create more of those than Derek Brown is. Derek Brown is going to wreck a decent amount of plays, like greater than average, right? But those plays largely are going to be run plays. He is going to compress the center of the pocket on some pass plays, cause a pressure, flush out a quarterback. That does happen. He's a very talented player. But in terms of that run-pass balance, pass being more important to counter on defense, Burns is going to be involved in more of those and create more explosive negative plays for the defense versus pass plays than Brown is. It's also more expensive to replace. So both very good players, both players I'd want on my team. If I have to pick one, I'm going with Burns.
All right. Easton Stick back out there. 21-point hole. Oh, got him a jump.
What? Did they not? How do you not get Herbert a sling there? It just looks really uncomfortable to have one arm stuffed in.
It's a big ass cast, right?
Yeah, but like just leave it hanging there. Like get him a sling. Get the boy a sling. It's fine.
Well, I don't think he can put his arm into the sleeve. I think it's too thick for him to put it into the sleeve. That's why he's carrying it like that.
Yeah, but he doesn't need a sweatshirt. He's indoors in Las Vegas.
Hey, man.
He could wear a
Charger. I'm not going
to judge. Of course you're not. Ye of the hoodie at 65 degrees.
I'm in LA right now. I'm in a hoodie, man. Like this is hoodie weather.
It is hoodie weather. And that is for everybody. And head over to homage.com, get yourself a hoodie, whether it's a bootleg hoodie or not. They're the most
what a transition, EJ.
Come on, man. Get better at this stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, not bad, right?
Yeah, so, link in the description for your bootleg hoodies.
Yeah. Hop on. Doesn't matter whether it's got a bootleg logo on it or not. I've got a National Parks one that I was wearing earlier today, Denali. you've got your favorite TV shows from childhood. They have great movie quotes, all kinds of stuff. So, if you're just hard up for a gift for somebody and you have no idea what to do, go to Homage, cycle through the categories. You're going to find something: pop culture, movies, sports, national parks, you name it. Comfortable stuff. They'll definitely appreciate it. Did I tell you that I dropped off one of the spare ones that we got at my local teriyaki place, little family run place? They happen to be Raiders fans. Yeah. Nice. And she was kind of talking. She was, very pleased that I brought her a gift. She was like, "That's so nice." She's kind of just putting her hands on it, but she like shoved her hands in the pocket. She's like, "Oh, I see why you chose these. These are really soft." I'm like, "There you go." Indeed. It's not just any hoodie. Like, it's
why we
comfortable.
Pursued them for 2 years.
That's right. This was very purposeful.
Raj Be Cool for $5. What's your guys' opinion on the competition committee possibly making hip drop tackles illegal next year? I fucking hate it. I hate it because so how do they want them to tackle in pursuit from behind somebody? Like at a weird, what do they want them to do? That's like, you can ban it if you have a solution, but how are they supposed to get somebody on the ground? Dive at their feet and try to trip them? Like, is that the solution here? How do you get them on the ground? I'm not saying that like somebody should intentionally grab onto the jersey and then like do this fucking Captain Insano move where you're whipping around somebody and like intentionally, which first of all, players aren't intentionally doing that. But what they're doing is they're trying to latch on and then go dead weight with their lower body to drag people down. And they happen to land on the back of their legs sometimes. But like, what the fuck else you want them to do? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, they're trying to define it by a 3-phase action. Troy Vincent came out to say it was grip, rotation, and then something else. I think I forget what the third element was, but they're trying to define it very clearly. It's difficult. Football is a dangerous game, and it's the reason that the horse collar tackle got outlawed, because there's a high percentage of injuries when somebody's able to grab that focus point right behind your head and pull you down to the ground with that as the lead. Like, that's why horse collar tackles are not legal, is because you can get really screwed up on them.
And horse collars, I understand, because there's other ways to tackle people than by that area of their uniform,
and what
right?
I think is the definition of hip drop, because I think a lot of tackles that are not necessarily hip drop, where people end up entangled with people's legs, which, look, this is a really dynamic sport. People are really fast and they don't want to be tackled. So you don't always end up with an ideal angle. And there are a lot of times when people get tangled up with legs, even just in coverage, right? Again, it's not, if you're running at full speed and somebody kicks your heel, like that used to happen in grade school, right? You just wipe the hell out, right?
Mm-hmm.
They kick one of your feet into your calves. Like, that's not cool. They don't outlaw it. Is it dangerous? Yeah. Like, people get screwed up doing that. So I think the definition of hip drop is really wide right now. And it's anytime a defender basically comes down with some weight on somebody's legs. Those are not all hip drop by definition. And I'm with you. Many of those are sort of natural occurrences based on, how they were supposed to approach. And at some point, if you're going to say it's dangerous, like, yeah, the whole sport's dangerous. And either we go to flag, and I'm not saying anything about that, or sometimes people get tackled and they're going to get screwed up. Do you want people to be able to do it on purpose? Because no, they described it as a gruesome play. Yeah, it is. I don't think for the most part, those are the tackles that we are hearing about when people call it hip drop.
And how about this? I'll make it. They're not going to watch this. I'll make a deal with the competition committee. if they bring in some like rugby sevens coaches,
yeah,
or even if our audience, because I know we have a bunch of Euros, Australians that are rugby aficionados in our audience. If rugby has figured out a way for how to tackle people safely from those angles while in pursuit, great. Bring them in, teach these guys how to do it. If there's an alternative that other people have figured out how to do, let's do that. But if there's no alternative, if even the rugby guys haven't figured out how to do it, then what are we doing? So that's what I would do. Bring in a whole bunch of Scottish dudes and ask them the question and then make a ruling.
Yeah, I think that's part of it is, defenders at this point are like, look, man, what do you want me to do? I can't cut a big guy on the corner. I can't, pull him down by whatever I can grab. I understand. I can't touch him when he's, 5 yards past. I can't do anything. And it reminds me a little bit of that Buffalo Wild Wings commercial with the Bison and Sauce Gardner sitting at the bar. And he's like, well, what if you hit him low? Roughing the passer. What if you hit him high? Roughing the passer. What if he lands on top? Roughing the passer. Like, okay.
I do love that commercial. That's great.
Sauce is great as a deadpan dude in that one. He's really good.
See, there was one that I wanted to get to. Sorry, StreamYard. Forgot how to work StreamYard for a little bit. Here we go.
There you go.
Dean Hunter, if the game keeps going on like this, how did the charge? Oh, wait, no, we already did that one. Did I skip?
We got Alex Humphreys for $5. When are we going to get to watch Brett take his shots of Dorito liquor on stream?
Okay. I was informed by my mods that it's already out. Like it's already sold out. So we will find a way to like get some on eBay or something if somebody puts it up. And I will drink.
I was going to say somebody's going to have to bid for one. They're going to be like European NFL tickets. They're gone in 5 seconds, and then they come out on the secondary markets.
Because the base price is $65, so I bet on eBay it's going to be like a couple $100. Dude, but you know what? It's worth it.
Okay. You and I have a very different definition of worth it. I just cannot imagine that stuff not tasting like absolute.
Oh, ass. It's vile. I guarantee you, it's horrific. It's an affront to mankind. But that's why I want it.
Right.
Between Malort, absinthe, pickle vodka.
You're going.
The fuck this is.
You're bouncing right all. Right,
dude, I'm collecting the Infinity Stones, man. The Infinity Stones of shitty liquor.
There's so many of those. You'll be at it for a long time, possibly longer than Thanos, and he was at it for a while.
Aiden O'Connell coming out party. I hope so. I hope that this game single-handedly gives Aiden O'Connell a 10-year career. I hope he's like the new Chad Henne. That'd be great.
I'm sorry. I hope more for him.
I mean, Chad Henne made a lot of money.
I know.
And left the game with no serious health issues. Like, it's a good life. It's a good life.
Oh, absolutely. And I see Chase Daniel on his show on The Athletic, and I'm like, dude, that guy's a master. He made like $44 million for like, I don't know, what was it, 80 snaps or something?
Yeah, no, it's insane. It's the greatest grift in mankind history.
Yeah, no. Incredibly solid.
Joseph Hooper. So do we see Max Duggan in the second half, a la TCU versus the Raiders? The way things are going, we just might.
It's difficult because, again, the defense has played extremely poorly. They played poorly from the jump. This was not like they played well and then they had a couple of breakdowns. Like early on, the Raiders marched right down the field on the very first drive. On the second drive, they were guarding grass a bunch of times down in the red zone. Like, the defense hasn't done anything. Obviously, 0 points on the board. The offense has not been able to crack the Raiders defense either. So it's like, at some point, you're just kind of throwing darts. You're like, we're just changing stuff. We don't know if it's the stuff that's actually doing anything because nothing's doing anything. Sometimes you just need a spark. I know you've been on teams like that. I've been on teams like that were just brutal. And you just kind of go, I don't know, different at this point. I don't want the same. And, Raiders go out and make another big play. So.
Oh, God. Now what?
Another forced fumble.
Did they muff it?
Nope. Another forced fumble.
I was looking away for 5 seconds and the Chargers turn it over again. Jesus Christ.
This is Trey Turner making up for his almost. Yeah. And this just really is starting to feel like the house is falling in.
Dude, this is
like they 3 turnovers already for the Chargers in, not even the first quarter and a half. And if you could ever point at two teams and say they came in at similar positions or similar, power rankings, if you want to use that term, but are going in completely different directions, like this is the poster child game for that. Like the Chargers came in with, a decent record, very similar to the Raiders, but like if I had to bet who was going to have more wins at the end of the season based on this, it's got to be the Raiders.
Oh, they will. They will.
I mean, it's 5-8 and 5-8, but again, one's going up and the other one is not.
Dane, EJ purely is a fan of the Bears. Marvin Harris Jr. first overall ?
I wouldn't be terribly upset by it. It would certainly mean that they're sticking with Justin at quarterback. I just, regardless of that, because that's a whole loaded debate. I'm not going to come down on one side or the other right now because don't need to. If you're purely talking about the talent of the player and the impact that he is likely to have quickly in the NFL, I wouldn't be sad about it. And that is a rare thing to say about a wide receiver. Right.
No, he's one of the few that's worth it. Like,
right.
Ever.
You look at him and you go, okay, what's the weakness? Well, is he small? No. Does he have terrible hands? No, he's got great hands. He's actually really tall. Does he run good routes? Yeah. Well, what kind of routes? Are they just underneath routes or deep down the field routes? Well, can he go to the top shelf? Can he play above the rim? Yes. And yes. And yes. And you're like, okay, well, what can he do? And you're like, I don't know. Suck. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure what he can't do, because for the most part, we've seen him do most everything at Ohio State. And he is likely to take right off in the mold of players like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and, even Zay Flowers, come right out and produce at or over 1,000 yards, handful of touchdowns at minimum. If he gets in the right situation, double that. So
the only question for me is, can he, as a rookie, outproduce Puka Nacua?
Well, that would be the best rookie campaign.
It's harder than you think.
Ever.
Okay? It's harder than you think.
So it is possible. It's not likely because, again, I doubt it. Right.
Yeah,
that's
only need 1,400 yards.
Yeah, nobody else has ever done it. So it's a difficult standard to achieve, obviously. But we said in the offseason that the only thing Puka needed to do to play well, and we are not saying we predicted that he would play this well. We did no such thing.
We loved Puka. We said he was going to be Robert Woods 2.0 for them, which was as sky high expectations as you could possibly have in the summer before the first season of a 5th round rookie. Oh. And he still made us look like we were down on him.
Oh yeah. He doubled it. So, forget about it. Oh boy.
All right.
Man, I don't know. Alex might just dig himself into a hole and make himself unavailable.
Yeah, we're piling on now.
Yeah, this is purely like the face you just saw from Brandon Staley is the man. I should start looking at real estate face.
So Michael Mayer just scored. It was Aiden O'Connell's 3rd touchdown of the first half. Wide open in the flat off play action. Clearly somebody fucked up because that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah. And not a great throw. If we're just, again, completely reasonable throw for where he was, but like could have been out in front of him, turned him around a little bit. Didn't matter at all because nobody was even close. There was nobody to contest the catch. So it doesn't really matter that the throw wasn't, perfect. Like it was good enough. He caught it. He scored. I don't know what you do if you're the Chargers right now. Like maybe throw Duggan in just for the fun of it. Like
just cause I don't know.
Is it going to be worse? I don't think so.
Bacon for $5. Is the Chargers O-line this bad or is the Raiders D-line this good or yes? I
think it's a little yes.
That's the thing is like the Raiders D-line I don't consider to be a top tier D-line. Like at all.
They're not, but
they're like Max Crosby would not be playing 97% of the snaps if they had more dudes, right? Like it's not a deep D line, which is why I still think they need more edge help in the draft. But yes, the Chargers offensive line has struggled over the last month and a half in pass protection. Even guys that in the past have played extremely well, like Slater, are not playing as well as they have before. There's just kind of been an overall degradation in the team, I think, as it became more and more clear that this year was just not going well. And I don't want to say that the locker room has quit on Brandon Staley, but with each mounting loss, it certainly feels like the effort isn't the same. And you see that in the decline in quality of play all across the board, not just the offensive line, but everybody's playing poorly now. Like even players that historically have been really good are playing poorly now. And I think that more than anything kind of signals that even people in the building are kind of like, all right, let's get to January, you know?
It feels very over. Again, we're sitting here stumbling, looking for answers, saying, oh, typically if you follow the channel, you know that we're pretty focused. We're going to pick 2 or 3 areas that we really think could use some improvement, or 2 or 3 areas of the roster that really, need the first bit of attention. Here, a performance like this, especially, like, this is extremely flat. Like, they have done nothing all night. Like, they've made a bunch of mistakes, but they really, like, no sparks. They're going to need a ridiculous second half to even be competitive. And right now, it doesn't. As I say that, the running back slips down untouched and goes
it's
down.
Just it's that kind of.
You're like, okay,
day,
like
man.
it's not turning around. Like I'd love to say it is. I'd love to say it's fairy tale. Like, it's not turning around. This is, and I mean, for this game and for this season, like, this is not turning around. Like, Justin went down, the air went out of the balloon. Everybody was like, we kind of weren't believing before. We're really not believing now. This is over.
So there are 6 teams, count them, 6 teams at 5 wins right now. 2 of them are in this game, Raiders and Chargers. If the Raiders win this game, well, if the Raiders win this game,
I don't know, man.
We'll see.
Going out on a limb.
That would put them all. That would move the Raiders into the 6 and 7 grouping, which starts with Atlanta at 11. So at minimum, the Chargers move up to the 9th overall pick. The Raiders will move down to the 10th overall pick. They're pretty much out of contention at that point for Dayton Daniels, unless they want to trade up. So I'm sure some Raiders fans out there are like, please, guys, stop. Don't do this. But yeah, that train's left the station. Looks like the Raiders are going to be in the 6-win team club.
Yeah.
Chargers, meanwhile, have to compete with Tennessee, the Giants, the Jets, and Chicago. That are the other teams that are in the 5-win club. Wouldn't be surprised if Chicago won this week, which would move them significantly down. So that would mean the remaining teams are going to be the Jets, Giants, Titans, and Chargers at 5, which means theoretically by the end of Sunday, the Chargers could be at like 7th or 8th overall pick. That puts them in range for Malik Neighbors, maybe, possibly. Brock Bowers. Let's see. They wouldn't be in on the tackles. Well, maybe at right tackle. Let's see. What else would the Chargers even want there? That's too early for the corners, unless you really, really like Wiggins. I'd probably just default to Neighbors. What about you?
If he's there, I don't think it's a bad idea. We talked, I guess it was last week on the podcast about how to fix, or maybe it was week before, I'm losing track of time, about how to fix, teams that were stuck in the middle. And we said either help for Max Crosby on the defensive line. So you either pick your top rush threat, or, it's not going to hurt to get another target, because right now, Myers and Renfro aren't the type of receivers that are going to keep you from picking anybody. So, it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Kel for $5. When Staley was hired, he wasn't the only option. Brian Dable was in the running. Would the Chargers look different if they had gone that route? Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
Sorry, this one stings as a Bears fan because there were several coaching hires where everybody's like, well, the other guy was, and it was always better. Like the guy that went somewhere else always did better. So everybody was like, well, would it be different if they hired the guy that did better? You're like, yeah, man, that's the point.
I think Kel's just trying to stick the knife in of just like,
Yeah.
eh.
Yeah, I bet it would. I would be very interesting. In fact, Abel was one of my favorite choices because I thought he could do a lot with a quarterback like Justin.
I think this is going to sound maybe presumptuous of me. Brian Dable with Justin Herbert equals first team all pro season for Justin Herbert. Like, I truly believe it. Believe it.
Certainly feels like it could have at that juncture. If we're going back and looking at that snapshot in time with where Dable was, with where Herbert was, it seemed like a perfect match. Now, it didn't come to pass. If it had, that's one of the great sort of what ifs. I'm with you in NFL, like, what if history. It would have been a lot of fun, which is the reason I was rooting for it. It's not that I'm a Chargers fan or, so much of a Dable supporter or Justin Herbert stan. Like, I believe that all of those guys are talented. And I'm like, yeah, throw them in the same dish. Like, make cool stuff. I want to watch it. I want to watch Justin Herbert just unleash the cannon under, Dable's guidance and put up a historic season. That would be super fun. Didn't happen. The Staley thing with the defense, it's just so confounding because he maybe is a good defensive coach. It's so tough to say, but the defensive results since he got to the Chargers have been middling at best. They have never been great. And, at this point, I think probably ownership and fans both are like, we've seen enough. Like, for whatever reason, it's not working. He can go coach defense somewhere else. And I'm sure he will. Right. I am sure that he will go somewhere else, probably be successful, maybe build himself a second act. We'll see. But like, Chargers fans want no part of it. They're like, nope, we've seen enough. That's cool. We need something different. And it's tough to disagree with them.
Oh no, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Connor for 5. What on earth is this coverage and why is it so bad? I'm going to assume he's talking about the Chargers tonight. Well, it's what happens when your 6'3" corner that's really good in press coverage suddenly isn't good in press coverage anymore, and everybody else isn't super great either. And all of a sudden, you can't play man, and you can't play zone.
Yeah.
So what can
off
you do?
Man or press man? Like, we tried both, and everybody was terrible at everything. Yeah, it's really tough. Derwin Johnson just missed the running back there. Like, you're like, and those are the kind of plays that get made when the team is in sync and vibing and whatever. He just, drags him down, and here he just slides off harmlessly and doesn't turn into a highlight. So
to give really a more serious answer to you though, Connor, this defense really was built around Michael Davis's ability to survive on an island. Like 100% they were built around that with all the quarters they played, all the quarter half they played. Like, they relied on him to be the dude on the backside, one-on-one, that could get into a fist fight and live to tell the tale, because then they would have a numbers advantage everywhere else, right? If you have the one guy who can live one-on-one, you get a numbers advantage everywhere else. He was that last year. He is no longer that now. And so everything fell apart. Same way in the Jags playoff game. When Davis got hurt, they completely fell apart. Well, he's still out there now, but he's not playing well, so they completely fell apart.
Oh, God. Oh, Devontae doing Devontae things.
And who's he against?
Yeah.
Michael Davis, right?
Yeah, and I mean, that's really basic. Like, Davis has his hips turned to the boundary off the snap. Like, he's tight to the boundary, and he has his hips turned to the boundary off the snap. And Devontae is like, okay, if you're going to give it to me, I'll drive straight into you. And if you're not going to turn, I'll just take leverage to the inside. And he does.
That's the thing.
He's wide open.
He's playing a catch technique as if so they call it catch ban, right? Because you're not off and you're not in press. You're kind of in middle. So they call it catch technique. But if you're playing catch technique, you still have to be aggressive. It's still a form of bump and run.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's not better. It's just not. It's not better. Like it keeps getting worse.
But if you're going to do that, if you're Michael Davis and you're going to play catch technique and you're going to be opening your hips to the boundary, you still need to be far enough inside in terms of your leverage that if they come back underneath you because they have the space to come back underneath you, you have space to recover. He was basically playing head up on Adams while turning his hips. And it's like, dude, like you're going to die if you do that.
You're on the, that's my thing is he's on the boundary pointed towards the boundary.
Yes.
He's guarding like 2.5 yards of space to the line. And you don't think that Davante Adams can get across your face and make you turn your hips the absolutely wrong way or turn you completely around? Like, of course he's going to do that. He's going to give you a stab step to the outside. He didn't even really. He just drove straight out and was like, well, you're lined up the wrong way.
If you're going to give me the space, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, like I'll take it. Ends up with a huge chunk play for the Raiders. And it's like, yeah, but you started behind the 8 ball. Like before the ball was snapped, you were in a bad spot. Oh, and this is worse. Oh, boy.
Are they Wildcat? What is this? Aiden, what?
This is...
Oh, good Lord. And
yeah.
And then they just ran
at
Michael Davis again.
No tackling, and Raiders fans are ready to leave and party now because look the hell out. And that was their
35.
And that is their, well, let me check the depth chart. I want to say, yeah. No, sorry. That's their 4th string running back. Bolden is their 4th string running back. I was going to say 3rd, but that's Zam White. So, you just let the 4th string running back waltz in from 20 yards out. Like, I'm back to Connor's question. Like, what is this? I'm going to change coverage to defense. And why is it? And maybe I'll just change the whole question to why is this defense? Like, why is this?
They're on pace to put up the same amount of points that the Dolphins put up on Denver.
Yeah, no, they're going to hang a historic number unless the Chargers unless the Raiders mercy them, which I see no reason to do.
They're not going to. Do you think Antonio Pierce is somebody who's going to mercy you?
Not even close. No. So I see no reason to do that. So unless the Chargers can like find their chin straps at halftime, like you're in deep, deep, deep trouble. Like 35 pretty much unopposed points in the first half. Like, forget it, folks. This is a shellacking. Like, and it's not like you're giving that up to like the Ravens or the Eagles or like prime Kansas City or, Josh Allen came out and is responsible for 28 of these 35 points. And you're just like, well, it's Josh Allen. What am I going to do? Like, this is Aiden O'Connell, who we like and is playing well tonight. And the Raiders, which again, this is a 5-win team. We're 15 weeks into the season. They're a 5-win team and they just hung 35 on you. What looks to be pretty easily in less than a half of football. We still got 4 minutes to go to halftime. The second quarter feels like an eternity.
21 points ago.
So like 5 minutes ago?
21 points ago, I said that if the Chargers are going to make a move at head coach, it would have already happened. I feel like this game is so bad.
Yeah. I still think they won't do it because Spanos is conservative that way, but
I know, but
I think a lot of
owners don't like being embarrassed, man. They don't like being embarrassed.
Not on primetime TV, right? This is the only game going. You can't hide this in 6 or 7 other results. Like, everybody's at home. All the other coaches, all the other players watch this game. Like, you can't, well, at least first half of this game, they're all going to turn it off and go do something more productive. But like, yeah, this is embarrassing. There's no way around that. So
Jay Cornett for $5. Happy Thursday, boys. Any thoughts on the CFP and the potential winner this year? Thanks for all you do, Brad and EJ. Well, thank you for watching and for sticking with us through this shit show. As far as the CFP and potential winner, it's really, really tough. I would. Oh, man. So I do think that Michigan's going to beat Bama barely. It's not going to be a high-scoring game. It's probably going to be a slugfest. I don't imagine that either quarterback is going to have a particularly good game, but Michigan, as Joel Klatt has described them many times this year, and I love Joel Klatt. He's one of the best in the business. He describes them as a boa constrictor that will just suffocate you to death over the course of 4 straight quarters, and I think they're eventually going to be able to do that to Bama, even though Bama is not an easy meal to do that against. As for Texas and Washington, that's the one that's hard for me. I really don't know. Like, I cannot pick a winner in that game. I don't think either team can stop the other one, at least in terms of throwing the ball. I don't think Washington's going to be able to run against Texas's front, but like that trident of receivers for Washington going up against also A.D. Mitchell and Worthy for Texas. Like there's 6 NFL receivers in that game, if you also include the tight end for Texas too. So points will be scored. Many, many points will be scored. I have no idea who's going to win that game, but whoever does, I would bet is going to go up against Michigan. I'd still probably lean Michigan to win the whole thing just because I think they're the most complete team. But, man, would I be surprised if Penix and Rome and McMillan and Polk like went out there and threw for 400 yards and brought home the natty in the last year of Pac-12's existence? Like, not really, no. It'd be a great story, too. At least Katzen would be happy with that as a UW guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he would have that to cheer about because he certainly doesn't have this to cheer about. And they have played well they being the Huskies have played well in tight competitive games against good teams. And teams build a muscle when they do that. Like if team just blows teams out all year and then they get in a dogfight in the playoffs, it's more difficult. And Washington has had their share of tough games where they've played high quality opponents, and Texas is absolutely a high quality opponent. Bengal, if you're watching, yes, that was just for you. But no, I mean, they're going to get a challenge. There's a lot of good players on Texas and they've put up some good results and they are well coached right now. If I had to sort of put Sark and Kalen DeBoer in a tank and pick one, like I'm probably going to pick Kalen. I really believe he's going to go on to even greater things. And trust me, I want him to stay at Washington because it's a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
Washington's got sneaky money.
They do, but there will be eventually higher profile offers out there. I hope it's a while because he just got here. He turned around a program that has gone through a very long downturn. Like they just never really got off the ground. I mean, yeah, Tyrone Willingham and Chris Peterson, and like they had moments, but they never put together. Like Kalen hit the ground running and was like, nope, we're going to be good starting now. And he's been correct. And he had that, he's had that effect at pretty much every stop. It's been super fun to watch because it's been a while since the Huskies were really good like this, nationally ranked. And yeah.
Jack says, I can't lie. Getting bullied as a child for having a stutter brought more enjoyment than this first half has. Jesus, Jack.
Jack, so
I can't
for those
you're still awake, dude. Go to bed.
Yeah, right. Just give it up. You can't do it. He's a hardcore Chargers fan. Jack has been with us since the very beginning. He is a longtime bootleg OG. He is a patron for us. Can't say enough good things about Jack. I'm just sorry at this particular moment that you're a Charger fan, Jack, because this is rugged. This is not fun.
Yeah. As a European, of all the teams to choose for your allegiance, you chose the one that was destined to give you the most possible heartbreak. And I respect your commitment to the grind, Jack. I really do.
Yeah, for sure.
Curtis Rogers just finished a 12-hour drive from Illinois to Virginia with my cat. What a rough day. I really hope we have a good TNF game to watch. I even made it before.
Oh man. Who's gonna break it to him? Sorry, Curtis. I'm glad you survived the long drive with your cat, because having done long drives with animals, including cats, not always the best time in the car. And it's a little bit like this game, not always the best time, especially if you're a Chargers fan. If you're a Raiders fan, you're partying right now. You're enjoying life. You are like, haha, I told you we were good. Look at that. And if you're on the other side, there's nothing good about this game. Like there have been zero highlights, offense or defense. Like
the only thing that I think Chargers fans will take solace in is it's put the nail in the coffin.
I think they all knew it was there. I really do.
There was still a maybe. It's like, oh, if they win out, and then there's the excuse of, well, Justin got hurt and let's try it again. Like, I think this kind of just I'm not like rooting for people to lose. Like, I'm not a guy that does that. I'm just saying
it's a fact at this point.
It's just gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's just gonna happen
at this point. I don't use this account anymore for $5. Thank you. At least it isn't the Broncos hiring Hackett over McDaniel bad. Staley at least went to the playoffs and had winning seasons. Seems like cold comfort at the moment. You are correct. One is better than the other. Neither are good. And this, the end result for, both franchises didn't really end up any differently.
I think Hackett's tenure in Denver was doomed the moment they didn't get Aaron. Like, it was very clear they hired him specifically for Aaron.
Yeah, that was the plan.
It
didn't work out that way. Jack Hunter for 2 pounds. Anthony Lynn and Gus Bradley weren't this bad. No, they weren't.
I actually liked Anthony Lynn as a person a lot. Yeah. And it sucks that it didn't work out for him, because for everything I've heard about him, he's just such a good dude. And I really do wish that he had a better
run.
Yeah. Because I think he's and I think a lot with a coach like Anthony Lynn, I think it kind of comes down to who are your coordinators, like who's your support staff and everything like that. And, sometimes you don't make the right hires there and it comes back to bite you. But I really hope that maybe one day he gets another shot as like
that guy for me is Steve Wilkes. I'm like, man, he got a rough ride out of Carolina. He's obviously got a pretty good gig at the moment, but it really felt like, man, he did what he needed to do with Carolina at the end of last year to show that, give him some more players. The team's absolutely rallying around him, and the fortunes did change a little bit like Antonio Pierce, but I would say even more so for Wilkes, given the hand he was dealt, and still wasn't enough. So, can't speak to Carolina's decision making on that one, but I'm with you. I have that sort of place reserved for Steve Wilkes that I would like to see him get another shot at the top spot.
Well, let's see if AOC could put together I don't know. Can I even call this a 2-minute drill? I don't know if I really
can. So far, it hasn't taken 2 minutes.
No. So they don't even really look like they're trying to score a touchdown here. They're like, all right, whatever. We'll take a field goal. We're up 38-0.
I mean, at this point, it really feels like the priority should be stay healthy.
Like that kind of, yeah, for both teams, really.
Yeah,
for both teams.
We're not deciding anything else tonight that hasn't already been decided. Let's just not get out of here with injuries.
KC podcast from the closet. Thank you, KC. Considering Staley calls the defense, I'm going to assume his card to the building tomorrow won't work. Kellen Moore will interim the last 3 games to see if he's it. I mean,
I wouldn't be shocked, but I also would be surprised because of who the owner is. And I really think he's going to wait. There is, as strange as it is, I don't think it's true. There is a cachet with owners for not firing guys during the season because it's not an effective move. Like historically, you don't gain anything. So they would rather just wait to say, we're we've only ever fired one guy in season. Like it's a thing that they pull out. It's useless, but it does hold some merit for them.
The argument, because again, and I said this a long time ago, if they were going to do it, they already would have done it, because they would have tried to give Kellen a proper run to evaluate Kellen, right? Like they would have done it a month ago. But when it comes to games like this one, the reason why I think this particular game or even this particular half might change everything is because at some point, the powers in charge need to establish some sense of accountability in the organization.
Yeah, you can't do this and keep going. Like you don't keep getting for being this bad.
There has to be a man, here's an injury. Fuck, that's what we were hoping.
I know. I was just like, we said healthy and ding ding.
Yeah, he's grabbing his knee. Fuck. But, they need to demonstrate to the players in the locker room that are putting their bodies on the line like this, that there is accountability, that people,
that you'll be held to a standard.
You know, I hope this isn't bad. He dropped his head. Fuck. Don't do that.
Don't do that. I'm sure he can hear.
That's what happens. Fuck. Yeah. He's going to get evaluated for a concussion for sure.
Yeah, the Aiden O'Connell coming out party. This is Dane B way back for $2. A little bit. He's showcasing a lot of the skills we already knew he had, but when you're playing against a very extremely movable force, you look a lot better. I'm not saying he's playing against air. On the first couple of drives, he was literally playing against air. He was throwing to wide open spots in the zone. That's air. That's throwing on air. But I got to say they put together a little montage before the touchdown run of his 4 touchdown throws. And I got to say the one he threw to Myers in the corner is still my favorite, because he kind of just stood up on his toes, didn't have his base, and just kind of went, I need to throw that over the corner. And perfect toss.
Mixed up Brian with Brent because I'm watching Canes hockey too. If Bears take Marvin Harrison Jr., will DJ go down as the most consistently underrated wide receiver in history?
No.
Oh no, what?
I thought it was a replay.
Oh God, they went. Oh God.
I literally thought it was a replay, and then I was like, no, he was closer. He kept running out oh no, that's live.
Dude, Perna's going to have a field day with this.
It's the same route. It's the same route. Like, it's not like this is some new wrinkle. It's the same route. I literally was like, "Oh, is
that Michael Davis again?" Yes, it is. Why did I even ask?
I don't know why you're matching up Michael Davis on Trey Tucker in the first place.
I don't even know why Davis is still in the game at this point. Like, again, we're talking about establishing a sense of accountability within the organization.
I don't know, man. Like, we were talking about it. They look like they were just kind of cruising for a field goal, and Antonio Pierce is like, "Screw that. We're throwing it. We're giving it a shot at the end zone," and they can't hold up against, again, nothing exotic. You line him up from the slot and you ran the same route. Like, I don't know. What do you want me to do? People are like, "Don't run up the score." I'm like, well, cover somebody. Like,
the deep crosses will continue
until morale improves. I don't know, man. It's not like we came up with some crazy rub concept, or, we've got our tight end, hand fighting you off and pushing you off and hoping he doesn't get OP. Like, he lined up, ran across her from the slot.
Easy.
What do you want? Yeah, it looked easy. Come on. What are you going to do? I don't know, man.
To answer your question, Willis, about DJ Moore.
Oh my God.
As in, will he go down as the most consistently underrated wide receiver in history? I don't know about in history.
No.
But so far, within his era, how many guys have done more and been no pun intended. How many guys have done more and been this productive while not getting national attention? It's all like when you're naming top wide receivers in the NFL, it's JJ and Jamar, and Tyreek, and Cup, and then eventually you'll get through like 10 names. It's like, oh yeah, and DJ Moore's pretty good too. And it's like, DJ Moore's pretty good. Like, pretty good.
Yeah, it's funny to me
in Carolina with like the fucking garbage dump around him.
Yeah.
Then he went to Chicago and like single-handedly showed the world that Justin Fields can still throw the ball. Like, DJ Moore is more than pretty good.
Yeah. And there are very few wide receivers that are better after the catch than him because he plays like a running back after the ball's in his hands. He is incredibly physical. He's really good at running through tackles, almost always gets more yards than you would expect. And what I find hilarious is this whole, camp of like, well, Justin Fields sucks, but DJ Moore's well over 1,000 yards. Well, how did that happen? Like, it was not all Tyson Bagent. Like, the vast majority of those yards,
screens were Tyson Bagent.
A couple of the screens were, but like the vast majority of those yards are from Justin. Everybody's like, well, Justin sucks, but DJ Moore's over 1,000 yards. Like, well, how did that happen? Like, it's the same thing. Oh God, this is the most painful thing ever. Like, Kaylee's got to stand in front of Brandon and say, so how does it feel to get absolutely beat down and curb stomped on national TV, coach? Like, that's just a rough
And
position.
why are they even making him do that interview? Like, come on.
I think it's in the contract. Like, they said,
I'll pay the fine. I'll pay the fine.
It sort of feels like it. Like, oh, well, maybe if I don't do the interview, they'll fire me now. I won't have to coach out the rest of the season. You're not going to learn it. It's tough. At least they kept it mercifully short because I don't know, Kaylee, you want to coach? I got nothing, obviously. Like, there's no good answers there. You just be classy and throw Coach Beak and ugh. Like, just ugh.
Cannot aim for $2. This game makes me so happy the Vikings got Flores. Flores has done a really, really good job in Minnesota, especially considering I think the cupboard is not as stocked with groceries as a lot of other teams, but Flores has made it work. They clearly have a very particular style that they play that makes them kind of play on a knife's edge every single week, but they've made it work. Very curious to see how they match up specifically against Cincinnati this week against a quarterback that gets the ball out extraordinarily quickly. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen because on paper, Browning is equipped to, I don't want to say shred this style of defense, but maybe to neutralize their style of getting pressure with how quickly he gets it out. And of course, the Bengals are so good after the catch. Like, really, the key matchup there is how the Vikings handle the screen game and smoke routes and everything with Jamar. Like, if they can bottle that up, then yeah, they're probably gonna handle Browning okay. But like, that's a tough task. That's a really tough task. And other blitz happy defenses have not fared so well against Cincy this year. So Flores has done a good job, I guess, is my overall point. But I do wish, or I do hope in the offseason that they add a few more guys to this defense that will allow them to play literally any other style than spamming pressure as much as humanly possible. Like, I would love for them to have the ability to just line up and play like cover 3 and rush with 4 and win. They can't do that right now. Like, they get by, but like, that's kind of like the last thing they need is the ability to just play normal defensive football and just survive. Like, they kind of have to be tricky and exotic to survive right now. I would love to see them add another pass rusher and another corner so they could play straight up and still be able to do that. Does that make sense?
Most of it made sense. I was multitasking.
Oh, look at you.
No, don't
taking
get
halftime off.
Don't get too impressed.
Oh, you're trying to get Katzen. Is Katzen alive, by the way?
I'm not sure. I was just asking if you sent him the link. But
oh no, I didn't.
I need to go refill because I don't believe the second half is going to be worthy of simply drinking LaCroix for the rest of it.
Yeah, I have my backup option as well. Lagavulin 16.
Oh, bang! Yeah,
I had a feeling I was gonna need it for
You
something.
just had it close.
Pulled it out of the liquor cabinet right before the stream because I was
All
like,
right, well,
I'm probably gonna need you.
Go ahead. I'm probably going to need you, friend. Go ahead and send him the link. I will make my traditional halftime pit stop to upstairs, stop by the fridge, freshen a few things up, and be back. It'll be us when we come back from halftime. And then right after that, we'll bring in our buddy Alex Katzen, who does write for the Chargers Wire, so we can't guarantee what condition he's in.
Charging Badger for $2. Vikings fans will be terrible after tonight. Parentheses me. Yes, you are not alone. I am constantly badgered by Vikings fans to do Vikings content this year. Even though like I just recently did a Vikings episode not too long ago, but it's never enough for you Minnesotans. Green Gandalf for $5. How impressive is the fucking Vikings again? How impressive is the Vikings shutting this team out? This is me selfishly requesting a video on the insane turnaround Flores has orchestrated Minnesota. I swear to God, guys. Relentless. Every tweet, every video, flooded by Minnesotans doing their coordinated psyop to get me to do a Flores episode. Nowhere is safe from the reach of Minnesota. Dame B, firing a coach at the end isn't unheard of. Eagles did that with Chip Kelly just one game before the end of 2015, but yeah, it is rare. Was it one game before the end for Chip? I thought it was earlier than that. I trust you. I believe you. I just didn't realize it was that late in the game. Sheldon Wong, what late first round offensive tackle / right tackle zone run fits do you see for San Francisco? In terms of the athletic profile that they like, probably Mims from Georgia in terms of being quick and fluid, you know, somebody who can work in space against linebackers and like actually be able to locate and track linebackers in space and kind of do all the awkward movements that a 300+ pounder needs to do to be able to adjust to a 220-pound linebacker on the second level in space. Like you kind of do need a special athlete in order to do that. Like you don't send your non-special athletes up to the second level. Like with how linebackers are built these days, like you're not going on to take on these refrigerators. Like you're going basically to take guys that used to play safety. And now you're asking your big 300 to 330-pound guys to block them in the second level. So you need athletes to be able to do that. And especially for a system like San Francisco, where you do need tackles that can get up to the second level, like you need athletes. And Mims, other than the top two guys, Fashanu and Alt, Mims is probably the best athlete in this tackle class. So I don't know if he'll be there when their pick is. I'm just assuming their pick is going to be late 20s at the earliest, maybe even 32. Like I don't think he'll be there, but he might be in range for a trade up for them. Obviously, the top two tackles are going to go early, and then Fuaga is probably going to go fairly soon after that. The Bama kid whose name escapes me, is also a first round guy potentially. The Arizona kid, was it Jordan Morgan? Sorry, I'm still trying to get all the names down for this class. I just started doing them like a month ago. Jordan Morgan, he's got really good feet too. He could go in the first round. So was that like 6 tackles that could go? So I'm not entirely sure between Fuaga and Mims, like what the order is going to be, but he's the one that immediately comes to mind. Nathan Woolley for $2. $5 says Acho tries to pin this on Herbert. Yeah, you're probably right. Game is on track for 84-0, by the way, from Nicholas Cox. Thank you, Nicholas. You know, and the fact that I'm not even going to doubt that they'll get there shows you how bad it's been. I'm not even going to read that one, but thank you for the $2, Dr. Steve. Oh, Christ. Yeah, Chargers fans are mad. Oh, Grassi's here. The Grassi Posse. How you guys doing? Grassi Posse, if you guys could please be a deer and let Perna know that I need the episode on this game to be done as soon as humanly possible, because I need something to watch while I eat my breakfast and drink my coffee tomorrow morning. If he could sacrifice his sleep schedule to make this video overnight, I would really appreciate it. I know that you guys have deep ties to Perna, so if you could pester him as much as you can, please do so. I would love that. Also, welcome. You guys are always welcome here. Jay Cornett for $5. Brett, what NFL team was your favorite to watch and why? For example, mine was the 2014 Patriots, which low-key, great choice. Kind of the end of... No, that was right after the Boston TE party. That was the year after Hernandez went away, I think. So that was, I mean, it was still prime Gronk. Welker had just recently gone to Denver, so that was Edelman and Amendola were there. Let's see, who was the outside receiver for them that year? For 2014, they went to the Super Bowl. Oh, this is going to bother me, chat. Who was their outside receiver? It wasn't Brandon Lloyd. No, it was too late for Brandon Lloyd. Oh man, that's gonna mess me up. Who was it? And then in the backfield, I'm pretty sure James White was there at that point. And the lead back, I think that was too late for Benjarvis Green Ellis. So I think this was post Benjarvis Green Ellis. Oh man, you caught me. I'm trying to remember the 2014 Patriots offense now. Obviously, you had Tom there. You still had a kick-ass offensive line. Dante was coaching it. Oh man, I can't remember their number one receiver or number one outside receiver. I think Edelman led them in catches. But good choice. I would say in terms of which NFL team was my favorite to watch and why, I probably would say the 2011 Texans. And if you watch like the September Texans that year before Schaub got hurt when Albert Hainsworth fucked up his foot, dirty play. Mario Williams before Mario. So that pass rush for the 2011 Texans, by the way, listen to these names. So you had Connor Barwin, Mario Williams, Antonio Smith, and a young J.J. Watt. It was J.J. Watt's rookie year. Their pass rush was insane before Mario Williams got hurt. And even after Mario Williams got hurt, because they still had Antonio Smith, they still had Barwin. Brooks Reed was getting like a sack a game. Not to mention that was prime Arian Foster. It was like Arian Foster's third year. You still had Andre Johnson kicking ass and taking names. Owen Daniels was still there. The offensive line was incredible. You had Dwayne Brown. Wade Smith, I believe, was a Pro Bowler that year. Chris Myers was one of the best centers in football. Like that Texans squad, I swear to you, they would have gone to the AFC Championship game if Mario Williams and Matt Schaub didn't get hurt. Like, they were so good. So good. And I'm forever resentful that we got robbed of that. Oh, I forgot to send a link to Katz. I'm going to do that. I was reminiscing about the 2011 Texans.
I know. I was like, boy, I came in right when, Brett was rocking himself to sleep with his favorite lullaby. All right. I'm going to endeavor to help out the Chargers here.
What's that?
I had one Lucky Buddha beer remaining.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to help much, dude.
That's all I got. Like, I can't help any more than that from here. Maybe I could. Did you see the stat they flashed up that Trey Tucker was plus 20,000 to score 2 touchdowns tonight?
Hope somebody bet on that.
I hope so too.
You missed the Grossi raid, by the way.
Oh, I
know.
That's all right.
Every halftime.
It's not every halftime. No,
most halftimes.
Some halftimes. Tom has been very gracious in sending support our way. I deeply appreciate Mr. Grossi. I got to spend some time with him this summer. Get to know him a little bit. Great dude. Love.
I really want to see. So I love the off season just because of all the draft content we get to do and the series and everything like that. What I can't wait to see is what Tom does this summer, because it's going to be so hard to top 30 and 30.
Yeah.
But if anybody,
I would agree with Tom. All right. Does Katzen have a link? Because he's probably getting itchy.
Yeah, he's got it. He'll be in shortly.
Okay. All right.
All right. Kickoff in the second half just happened.
Oh, look at the stat.
What's that?
The Raiders lead stat that they flashed up.
Oh man. Second largest halftime lead in NFL history. Now I want to know what the biggest was.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's
Good Lord.
It's horrendous. This is historically bad. Like legitimately historically bad.
All right, let's see if we can vamp for 2 quarters straight, EJ.
Well, that's
our challenge tonight.
That's why I plan to have a guest in the third quarter who is knowledgeable, unfortunately, about the team that's getting trounced. That was not on plan, but I thought, we could do it in the first quarter. Let's do it in the third quarter. I have a feeling we might have a bit of an imbalance by then. I didn't know which way it was going to go, but yikes, no question about the way that it has gone. Let's be clear about that.
Oh, it was LeGarrette Blount and LaFell. Sorry, I was trying to remember the 2014 Patriots, like who was their number one outside receiver and who was their lead back, and I forgot that was the Blount and LaFell year.
Vereen.
I know, takes me back. All right.
Yeah.
Our guest has arrived. Everybody, welcome the Chargers Wire Zone, Alex Katzen, an expert on all things depressing and all things Chargers. Alex, how you doing?
Well,
better than you might think, given how things are going right now.
Yeah, we were a little bit worried about you, man. No, we're not gonna lie. We were not loving the idea. We're like, is he okay?
Yeah, no, hanging in there. I am the draft specialist guy over at Chargers Wire, so it's a great time for me to get prepped for all that stuff as the pick only continues to move up the board.
Well, speaking of that, so they were at Samir White, just another first down. So they were at 10 to start the night, with the Raiders probably beating them. They're going to move up to at least 9, and then by the end of Sunday, they have potential to be at 7 or 8. For your money, not asking you to bet on this, but for your money, number one position and or number one player you have in mind for them to target at, let's say 7 or 8, somewhere around there.
Brock Bowers and powder blue would really be nice. That'd be fun. That'd be good. I would really, I personally would really like to have a tight end on the team that can block. So it'd be cool to have Brock Bowers for that reason, in addition to everything else that he can do on the field. I think if he is gone, then the position that you're looking at gets kind of hazy because wide receiver maybe, but there's a lot of investment tied up in the position. And so you probably have to move some stuff around in order for that to really make sense. Edge is a possibility if you think that they're worthy of a top 10 pick.
Do you think Keenan's around in 2024?
I think Keenan will be around. I think he's played too well this season to not be. But Mike will be gone, I think. I think Keenan will be back, and then obviously Palmer will be coming back. And this current iteration of the staff loves him. Obviously going into next year, who knows what the situation will be. And then Johnston is a first round pick still, and so they're still going to give him plenty of chances to develop and stuff. So you still have 3 NFL caliber receivers, and so drafting another one in the top 10 when you're paying Keenan $20 million and just drafted a guy in the first round gets a little bit tight money wise. So
something that we've discussed a lot tonight is the woes of Michael Davis. Just not the same guy he was in 2022. And so corner is obviously either at or very near the top of the list. But 7 or 8 corners a little early. Would you advocate for a trade down and then do a Wiggins or Terron Arnold or Kool-Aid or whoever?
Yeah, I think that would probably be the move. If Bowers is gone by the time you pick at 7 or 8 or whatever it's going to be, then trade down a few spots, grab I think my CB1 is probably going to end up being Wiggins. I still need to get to Arnold and McKinstry, the Bama guys. But I think that Wiggins is probably my guy as of right now. And then if for some reason they don't like those guys, I do like some of the guys that look like they're probably going to hit like the top of the second, like Kamari Laster, or Kalen King is a guy that they've gone and seen in person a ton. The Chargers scouts have been to 6 Penn State games this season. So I would probably bet on them. Yeah, I would probably bet on them taking one of the Penn State players at some point, whether that's Chop or Kalen King or Johnny Dixon, who just took a Senior Bowl invite the other day, or whoever else they have, Adisa Isaac as like a rotational edge guy. I would probably bet on at least one of them being on the Chargers by May.
Do you think there's a shot that they were looking at Olu for right tackle?
I mean, yeah, I mean, yes, because there's always a shot that you're looking at everyone, right? But I think that they're gonna go more of a developmental route at tackle. I think that they're gonna take a guy like in the 3rd or the 4th or something and have them sit for a year or two, because Pipkins just signed that extension. I think the money works out where they can get out of it this offseason if they really needed to, but I think they'd prefer to get out of it next offseason with the way that it's structured. And so I would imagine that it's probably more of a developmental guy. But there's always a chance with that sort of thing that you're just visiting to visit whoever, because they've been to Notre Dame a bunch too. And like, we've talked about kind of during the season that seems like it's more for the defensive players also. But then like with the way that the offensive line is played, it's like, oh, Penn State and Notre Dame, the 2 schools that have the 2 best tackle prospects.
Yeah,
how strange.
That.
Yeah, interesting. So maybe we were thinking about the wrong side of the ball this whole time.
Oh no.
But
they just get another one.
Sorry. Oh yeah. And they got it on a play they ran before.
Oh my gosh.
They ran the same play in the first half. Like, don't tell me you haven't seen it. Yes, I know it's a trick play, but it's the same play. Like,
boy, Antonio Pierce.
Yeah.
He hates the Chargers, huh?
Yeah, he's not interested. This is the NFA game for him. He doesn't care at all.
Wow.
If you're going to give it to me, I'm going to take it. That's going to be the motto for this game. And they're giving it to him and they're taking it. Like that's that.
Do you think they give Duggan a shot just to see, or is it just over?
I imagine he probably gets in. I mean, with the score the way it is at this point, I imagine he probably gets in for a little bit.
When you're down 49 points, man.
Yeah, and Stick is gonna have to play the next 3 games, so you don't want to risk him getting hurt also in like the most meaningless of meaningless situations.
I'm sorry, we're 10 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter, and we're talking about the injury risk to Easton Stick.
Went down to 7 touchdowns.
Yeah,
that is the definition
where we're
of
at.
down
That's where
bad.
we're at these days.
Oh my
Christ. God. Aussie NFL for $5 Canadian. He said, after Caleb May and Marvin Harrison Jr., who's the 4th best player in this class? If it's not a tackle, do you think Washington should trade down? And if so, with who? I'll tell you right now, I am not sure between Neighbors, Bowers, or either of the 2 tackles, but it's one of those 4 is player number 4 for me. Do you guys have anybody else in that tier personally for you guys?
No, I think
No,
I honestly think it probably is a tackle. And I'm an avowed Brock Bowers stan, have been for a couple of years, and love him as a player. But boy, if you're going to take a tight end at 4, you better be damn sure that A, he's made of adamantium, and B, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, because you're going to hear about it if he's not. And, so I think to sort of short circuit Ozzy's question, yeah, it is a tackle, and you can pick the one you like because they are slightly different flavors. We'll get into this deeply during draft season. Fashanu and all slightly different players, both very high level players, both polished, both going to be effective NFL tackles, I would say very quickly, but do not have the same strengths. And it really depends on where you're going to play them, how your team's built, where you think they fit in your roster as to which one you might think is better. But for me, yeah, most likely a tackle at 4th. I would be surprised. Could I see an edge there? Yeah, but not over those guys in terms of like the way the question's framed. Who do you think is the 4th best player at the draft?
In terms of, should Washington trade down, and if so, with who? For me personally, it depends on how far you want to trade down, because I don't think Washington should risk losing out on one of those blue chip players. I think they're in a prime position where they can take one, so they should. I have to imagine 3 of the first 5 picks are going to be obviously Caleb, May, Jaden Daniels, Marvin, and then probably Neighbors, and then Bowers. So those will probably be like the first 6 picks in some order. So you could go down, as long as you don't go past top 8, when you include the 2 tackles, like you're going to get a blue chipper. So for them, like for Washington specifically, I wouldn't trade any further than like 2 or 3 spots, but the compensation has to be good. Like it has to be really good. It has to be somebody coming up for like Jaden Daniels, so you could squeeze as much value out of it as possible because it's going to be a quarterback. It kind of does bring up an interesting question, because we're talking about the Chargers potentially being at like the 7th or 8th pick at this point. What?
Alex is going to want to look at that
in the game.
Oh, look at that. It's a
Look at
positive
that.
play.
It's a coverage bust.
Hey.
That is a straight up coverage bust.
It looks a lot like the play that ended the first Chargers-Raiders game, where Herbert threw it to Palmer on that sit and go ball.
Let me do the math. So they're only down now by 40.
Oh no! Watch
43.
Feet. Okay, the crazy thing about this is, like, Robertson has zero defense on this. I obviously he thought he had help, but watch Easton's feet, like, and his head. Like, this was his first read. He's looking at that. He's looking at Palmer off the snap, and he's just like, and then he sees Robertson hold up, and he's like, wait a minute. Really? Okay. Like, literally, he never turns off Palmer. Like, Palmer's his first read. He never leaves him. And he's just sitting there with his feet, and all of a sudden his feet get real settled as soon as he sees Robertson sit down. He's like, okay. Like, if you're going to give it to me. He obviously thought he had somebody up there. That's a coverage bust, a communication bust on the Raiders side, which we've seen a ton of on the Chargers side tonight, but not the Raiders side. Robertson didn't just sit and stick. He thought he had help. He was not correct, but there you go. Chargers take advantage.
Somewhere out there's some poor soul who live bet the Raiders to win by 60 who's now sweating bullets. So,
and you say somewhere, knowing this game is taking place in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Down the block.
Somewhere down the street. Yeah.
This is the guy in the hot dog costume meme. Who could have done this?
Somebody sitting in the pool at Circa just like, no. Jesus Christ, no.
What have I done? Oh.
I wonder if this game gets Pierce the coaching job. I mean, it already kind of seemed like he was going to get it, because the last time the Davis family ignored the players when they said, please hire Rich Bisaccia, they hired Josh McDaniels, which ended up being a terrible decision. So I feel like at this point, Davis is going to listen to the players, and all the players want Antonio to be their coach. Like, they can't do that twice in a row without facing a total revolt. So I bet they're going to do that. I don't know what kind of deal they would get. Probably like a 4-year deal at like $6 million a year, something like that. It would be on the lower end of the coaching money to give him an opportunity to.
The Raiders graphic for us draft guys is just like poison right now.
Oh man, they're just salt in the wound.
Oh, you're like, ouch. And I like that guy, but I didn't know that. Yeah. Anyways, the farther back you go in that list, the more times people sat me down like 3 years later and like, oh, you didn't hear? And I'm like, no, I didn't hear. That's the third. Like, I didn't have access to that.
Yeah, I really did like Garyon Conley. Fuck. He was good at Ohio State. I know, but he's another one of those guys where it's like, what do you mean you didn't know about rah, rah, rah? And I was like, fuck, I don't know. You didn't tell me.
Told me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ugly history for a team.
because I'm not logged on to every message board for every college team. Even I am not. I'm not
Even
on every
you.
one of those.
Well, since you're here, we should have you talk about that because not everybody in our audience is familiar with what you do and why you're here. They know that we're friends with you and revere your work, but they're not even necessarily sure with the breadth of your work because, heck, I was talking to you earlier this week and you just added a new job or you're trying to. So tell them about your jobs, tell them what you do, tell them what you're best at.
Yeah, I'm everywhere. I do everything.
True.
I'm mostly here because I write for Chargers Wire for USA Today, which is the team vertical covering the Chargers. I grew up a Chargers fan, and so I get to cover my favorite team from childhood every week, and it's usually fun. And sometimes there's this week. And then outside of that stuff, I am the spreadsheet man. Is probably the best way to describe that part of my job. I run trackers for basically everything related to the NFL, college football, the draft, basically any level of football past high school that you can think of. So like right now I track like the All-Star game invites and who's declaring and who's going back to school. And I have a sheet that I update with like NFL transactions and all that sort of stuff. I did it for free for a little while, and then this year I moved it over to Patreon, and I've been doing it over there this year. And yeah, it's been going really well, and I have more information than you can find on public websites that employ full-time people to do it because they get distracted by things, and I don't.
He's trying to say he has a beautiful mind for spreadsheets and off-season invites, and to the point where actual NFL teams will go to Katz's spreadsheets to get like pro day schedules because it's easier to do that for actual NFL teams than to go to the resources they normally use. Oh, Jesus Christ, Charger. Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
They get a sack and then, oh, man. Well, we love your work. It's certainly how we first got introduced to you. We were lucky enough to get to meet you in person at the Senior Bowl the first time. And then we've seen you try in a couple of years. Fun fact, you and I live like 12 miles apart, but we didn't know that for the first 4.5 years that we knew each other. So we were able to go out and get beers now, which is fun stuff. But yeah, in terms of the amount and the type and just the level, like the pure volume of information that you handle, it's ridiculous. It's one of my favorite things about you in terms of a human being, like the amount of focus it takes to get through, like, oh, who's in the transfer portal? And you do an eligibility spreadsheet for the NCAA with anybody that's kept up with college football for the past, 3 to 5 years with the COVID year, and then grad extensions and NIL and transfer portal. Like, you keep track of all of that stuff. And me as a draft guy, like I dip into it and I've always said, like, tell me when they declare. And that's gotten a lot harder to do over the last couple of years. And it makes your work even more valuable to people like me. So thank you for all of that. And yeah, it's great to have you on.
I appreciate that. That's very nice of you. I was literally just working on the transfer portal before I joined up with this. So,
of course you were.
As soon as I log on, I will go back to working on the transfer portal.
Also, if any of you are out there are Chargers fans and you want to meet Alex, he's going to be in Frisco, Texas at the Shrine Bowl, approximately late January. So, hop on a flight. Come say hi. That's really, come say hi to all of us. We're all going to have nothing to do for a week. So, I shouldn't say nothing. We're going to have lots to do for a week, but we're all going to be there.
We will be there. That part is
true.
The other part,
but we will be there.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming by. Go grab yourself a drink. I know you need several of them. And ideally, we'll meet up for several more drinks in Frisco. Thanks, man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you.
That's Alex. Welcome.
One of the most awesome human beings ever.
He's great.
I love the work he does. So he covers the Huskies for college football, covers the Chargers for pro football. He keeps all of those crazy spreadsheets, especially he's just ramping up in terms of draft season. He's got pro day results, which is one of my favorites because he covers literally every pro day result in the country. So if you want to know like what some backup linebacker at NC Ag and Tech weighed and ran, you can go to Katz's spreadsheet like 2 days after it happened and it's there. There is nowhere else I know of where you can get that kind of information with that kind of accuracy. And being a draft guy that watches, anywhere between a couple of hundred to several hundred to 400 prospects a year, being able to go and get height, weight, speed, what their shuttle was, even though they didn't get invited to the combine, like is just incredibly valuable. So great work.
The Chargers tweet after their touchdown was just, "We scored." That's it.
The Chargers, we do know some of their social media team. They are exceptional and they too are suffering. So yeah, go deadpan at this point. There's no harm in that. But honestly,
I guarantee you, by the way, this will make it into the schedule release video next year, and they're going to find a way to make it hilarious.
Oh, 100%.
It's
100%.
going to be so good.
Yeah, don't let a golden opportunity go, even if it's incredibly painful. I gotta say, I don't know. I think the Lucky Buddha beer's working so far. We've got like a touchdown, we've got a sack, we've got a little bit of offensive production out of the Chargers. Like, yeah,
hey, it's better than turnover. It's progress.
It's better than the first half. Let's just put it that way. I love it. We scored. Yes, indeed. Woot.
We missed that. So Willis left one for Alex. Any second rounders you like for Vegas? Well, if Alex is still around to chat, he can
oh
throw
yeah,
his in there. But
and you can get you can send it to him directly on Twitter as well. He's on Twitter. He's incredibly responsive because of course he is. Like he's omnipresent.
For me, in terms of second rounders that I like for the Raiders, let me pull up my little Excel document of doom here. I'm trying to remember who I got.
Yeah, second rounders is a tough designation right now because we don't even really know who's going to be in the first round. It's a lot early.
Johnny Newton's going to be long gone. I'm not a big Leonard Taylor guy. Tavondre Sweat might be available at the top of the second round. I'm not like totally counting on it, but I would love Tavondre Sweat for them. Yep. Let's see, edge guys. Do you think Braylon Trice has any shot of top of the second round, or is he going day one?
I really think he's probably going to be a deep 20s guy. When people go back to the tape, he's going to be that guy that's the, I don't know, fifth edge or something like that. For positions that need to go in the first, you're talking about offensive tackles, typically edge rushers, quarterbacks, and now I would say wide receivers is moving into that conversation. And other positions can kind of just wait. If you're taking a guard, if you're taking a center, if you're taking an inside linebacker, if you're taking a safety, like unless they're exceptional, they can wait until the second round. If you need an edge, a top wide receiver, a top tackle, like a top quarterback, those positions are the highest leverage positions right now in the draft. And so when a team's down in the 20s and they're like, well, we've got three guys on our board. One of them's an edge, one of them's a nickel, and one of them's a guard. We like them all. Like they're going to take the edge because they're going to go faster. So I think Braylon Trice has a very good chance of slipping into the like late 20s, what I will typically call the Saints pick, right? Late 20s, and we need a defensive lineman. Like, yeah, go grab Braylon Trice.
Dowens 89 says, I'm assuming Staley is gone tomorrow. Any chance McDaniels gets steamed to spot 1 to 3 over Mayor Williams? Oh, he means Jaden Daniels, I assume.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't. Jaden Daniels over Caleb or May?
Probably not over Caleb. Possibly
in terms of like
May.
Going third, like or top 3. Yeah, it's possible. Because Arizona could look to trade down if they're.
You know me. I believe that the longer people look at Jaden Daniels, the higher he is going to go.
Well, right now it's top 10. I'm assuming he's eventually going to go top 5 just because of the value of quarterbacks and somebody's going to trade up and yada, yada, yada. Do I think he's going to jump either Caleb or May? Probably not. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that we get a 1, 2, 3 at quarterback at the top of the draft.
Yeah, it is possible in my mind that he jumps May because of the value of his running ability and how much that impacts a young quarterback's transition in the NFL, how much that helps when the play breaks down. You know it's going to break down. Who's more dangerous when they take off? If you come to the conclusion, I'm not saying I've come to any conclusions because it's way too early for that, but if you come to the conclusion that the arm talent is similar and the talent as a passer as you want it, whether it's in the pocket or on the move or whatever your team really desires, is similar, and then you go to the next thing, running ability for a young quarterback is not what NFL teams want first, but they'll definitely take it second because it will extend more plays. They will lose less drives during that rookie year in which they're not going to win them all. Everybody knows that first year being a rookie quarterback, you're going to have that adjustment period. And if you can keep more drives alive, it is incredibly helpful. It reminds me a little bit of CJ in terms of like everybody said, oh, he can't run. Very last game in college, comes out in the Georgia game, goes, oh yeah, I can run. And then everybody kind of goes, oh, we don't know what to do. He's more valuable than we thought he was. Right. And again, he doesn't run a ton for the Texans, but he can run. Like he can take off when he needs to and pick up down. So if people start to sort of say that Daniels and May's arm talent, just capacity as passers is even close to similar, they're going to go to the next thing. The next thing is running ability. And I believe folks will say, oh, Daniel's running ability is better. And some teams, not all teams, some teams will already have May over him and will keep him there. Like some teams will be swayed by the fact that like, man, he's a better passer than we thought he is. He's closer to May. Oh, wait, and he's a better runner. Does that mean we like him more? And the question will come up. Will that be the eventuality? Impossible to say. Is it possible? Because, 2 months ago, people have been like, no, it's not possible. Drake May is absolutely going above Daniels. And people always
and then he won the Heisman.
Right. And again, as people really start to dig in, as the NFL season winds down and like draft media really cranks up, teams have already done their homework. I'm not saying teams are going to be swayed because they pretty much have these guys stacked at this point now anyways. All they got left is bowl game. So, but I think it's closer than people think. And I think those arguments will occur in some draft rooms of, I don't know. I think they're even in Daniels is a better runner. Does that mean we like it better? I don't know. Like it's possible. That's all I'm saying.
Storm for $5. Should Dallas take Sweat from Texas at the end of the first to help the run D? I mean, that was why they took Mozzie. I don't think they're going to punt on the Mozzie pick after 1 year.
They're not going to punt, but Mozzie has not worked out as many people thought he might.
100%. 100%. It's the transition's been a lot rougher than everybody, including myself, expected. But I don't think that knowing Jerry Jones, who historically hates taking interior defensive linemen in the first round anyway, he's not suddenly going to be like, oh, I know how to fix it. Take another one. Like he's not going to do that,
And I mean, say what you want. Jerry's still not a Texas guy. Like he owns football in Texas, but he would prefer to take players from another team before Texas first.
Now, if it was an Arkansas Razorback,
right?
Woo pig suey. Let's go.
Yeah.
But, Daniel Trump for $10. Can the Bears justify taking defense on one or both picks in the first round? We need an even better defense. Offense unimportant.
Yeah, that second part killed me. I read that one in the first half, and I'm like, on what earth?
Latu and Wiggins. Nobody scores ever.
That's what they did in their first year because they knew there were players away, and they said, "Hey, we're going to take Brisker and Gordon." Both those picks have paid off handsomely. They're both playing very well right now, but we've talked about it. We talked about it earlier in this stream. Got to have offense to win in the NFL. Like, period. End of story. They need more weapons on offense. They need more help on offense. Could they take one defensive player? Like Lazio, sure. Like you need another edge. Sure, go for it. Like put Lazio on the other side for Montez Sweat. Let's go. But can it be the first one? And can it be both? Absolutely not. It cannot be both. Like, can it be the first one? I'm going to say it can't. Like, no, you cannot prioritize. It's not, you're not that good on offense. You cannot be like, oh, we're set. We'll just take the best available defensive player. 2 or the first? No.
Mr. Louis for $5. MetLife may have absolutely screwed the Texans out of playoff contention. Don't remind me. I'm well aware. Have you seen the mile-long injury report? Brutal stuff. Oh, yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it.
He was trying to put it out of his mind, but you reminded him.
Houston is just the latest team to fall victim. Happens to everybody that goes there. At least almost everybody that goes there. Hell, it happens to the Jets and Giants every year too. Like, honestly, there's if I'm a top prospect, like truly, if I'm a top prospect, I very rarely would I advocate for like telling my agent to tell a team like, don't take me, I'm not coming. As long as the Jets and Giants are in that stadium and like my ligaments were my livelihood, I would tell the Jets and Giants, like, don't take me, I'm not coming. I don't want to spend 8 to 9 games a year in that stadium. Like, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
I'll go anywhere else.
It's crazy to me that NFL teams have not invested more in their fields because the NFL is not short on money at this point. Like, they're in no way financially unstable. Quite the opposite. They are printing money and have been for many years now. When you look at the extent that, say, European football teams have gone to in terms of engineering, in terms of just pure out expenditure to create grass fields, even in some of the craziest circumstances in terms of space and valuable real estate and, difficulty of engineering. Like, there are some crazy advanced technological grass fields in Europe.
Yeah.
And you can do it. I mean, the Raiders have an entire outside space, which looks like a practice field, which is literally the grass field that gets rolled outside so it gets sunlight. And then they roll it back into the building. Like, these things are incredibly possible. And the NFL's just like, no, we're going to make you play on, cement with plastic over it. Like, why? And, they keep saying, oh no, field turf is the same as grass, when data shows it's clearly not. And
well, it depends, because I have a field turf company that swear, and I haven't got the data yet, but they swear that it's installation and it's not the actual product.
And why wouldn't you if you were a field turf company?
I'm just saying, I cannot wait to compare that data to the data that I will inevitably pry out of the NFLPA's hands when I get the original data. But like, they say this, give me your data, allow me to do a video and compare it, please.
Okay. So how many European football teams play on field turf?
Probably zero.
Probably zero.
Like, I'm pretty sure it's like within their bylaws that they don't.
And it's a less collision heavy sport. There are still heavy collisions in soccer, but many less, obviously, than football. So if they're not even doing it and it's a less collision based sport, you're like, why is that?
I am very curious if MetLife was an indoor stadium, would they have gone the Trey route?
Yeah,
because I've seen it argued that the reason why MetLife does turf is because it's impossible for them to maintain grass through the winters there. Like, I don't know how true that is. I'm not a groundskeeper or anything like that. I mean, but Kansas City makes it work, and Kansas City gets cold as shit. So I'm like, if they can do it,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious if it was an indoor stadium, if they would do a tray system like some other teams have done, because I mean, something's got to be.
I'm surprised at this point that the NFL, just to put it to bed, doesn't just go, all right, within the next 5 years, every stadium that NFL games are regularly played on. Now, if we have an all-star game, or we have home stadiums for NFL teams will be grass by 2028, 2029. Like it would be a huge expenditure, but it would also be a concession to say, hey, and honestly, it supports the NFL's end goal. If you keep better players playing longer, you get a better
There's
product.
some stadiums where I legitimately don't think it's even like I don't think it's possible in Minnesota with how it's constructed and where it is. I don't even think they can. But if they put forth a rule that no new stadiums can be constructed that don't have grass fields, that's something, right? Another factor that I think the owners take into consideration is concerts. Like, you know, MetLife obviously hosts big concerts every summer. They had the Taylor Swift concert and everything like that. I have to imagine them not wanting to like constantly resod and everything after like
Right, but I'm operating under the impression that any conversion to a grass field would be a grass field that could be converted to another surface. Like it could be rolled outside, could be lowered down. Again, there are already all the solutions that exist in Japan. If you want to talk about like, oh, it's too tight and real estate's too expensive, like fields in Japan do this, fields in Europe do this. Like the engineering is all there. Like you just have to put the money forward, and it's going to take some time. It's not like you can snap your fingers and have this done for multiple reasons. But if you put a timeline of 5 or 6 years out there and say, look, we are going to, because some of the fields are already grass. Oh,
the comeback
Raiders
starts now. Oh no,
No,
no, it does not. It absolutely
it's the
does
other
not
way.
start now. Oh god,
this is the Emperor. Like
we got a thick six.
Not a comeback. Oh no, dude! Double nickel. They hung the double nickel on him.
Oh my god!
And they did it with a big, heavy defensive lineman running it in for a score. Like, okay, this is. Oh, is that Kuntz again? 51.
Is that 2 sack fumbles in one game?
Boom! Great hit. Get that arm and hook it as you're taking him down. Legal hit. Ooh, man, let's go. Malcolm Kuntz. I was a huge Kuntz guy. Loved him coming out of Buffalo. You know, certainly didn't think he was the same level talent as, you know, Khalil Mack, but like really liked him as a developmental edge in the NFL. Having himself a game tonight. Somebody had said earlier that, is this the Aiden O'Connell breakout game? I don't know. I think this is the Trey Tucker and Malcolm Kuntz breakout game.
Rashawn Slater is not having himself a good night. Both of those came against Slater.
Can you name anybody on the Chargers that's having himself a good night?
Well, it's more so it's like, okay, we're used to him being an all-pro caliber tackle, and like this season, as the season's gone on,
right? But this is like we talked about this. This is literally all the things bad at the same time. This is all the wheels falling off the car at 60 miles an hour. Like nothing is going right.
Yeah. It's rough.
Yeah.
Deadfire Griff for $2. At what point did the Chiefs slam the panic button? Brother, I think they already did. I think they did, man.
Oh man. Yeah. We talked about that in, what was that, Tuesday's podcast, in terms of like, what does this mean? How worried do you have to be? And yeah, in short form, Mahomes has always been able to adapt, and he has adapted. He has played differently in each of their, championship and playoff years and been successful in all of them. This is the first time he is butting up against a team and a year or schedule where he cannot simply lift them up and will it to happen. Like he just can't. He's trying. It's not like he slacked off or got lazy or anything else. He's doing the same thing, but the results are not coming. And it is incredibly frustrating to him. And that's the cracks that are starting to show. So that's the TLDR version of that whole thing.
It's more so this is the first time in the Mahomes and Reed era that they don't have a crazy margin for error.
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, this team could be down 24 and you didn't care. You're like, they'll be fine. And they were. Every time they were fine. And now, even when they're up by a touchdown, you're kind of like, I don't know. The margin for error is gone. It's gone. Their entire game revolves around play tough defense, make it a 3-point game by the fourth quarter, and then wait for Pat to do something and hope that whoever Pat throws the ball to actually catches it, right? Like that is their entire game plan, is defense, Pat's legs, or Pat making a crazy throw or whatever. And that's not sustainable. And like you're going to lose games like that because you can't rely on it like they have in the past. And so yeah, they hit the panic button already because they know that they're not going to get the first seed. It's just not really, like, it's mathematically possible, but it's highly unlikely, which means they're going to have to go on the road in the playoff. Like shit, they're barely hanging on to the division lead at this point. If they lose this week and Denver wins this week, guess who's in the lead in the AFC West? The Broncos. And can you imagine the Chiefs all of a sudden, for the first time ever, having to play 3 road playoff games on the in a row? Like that's what they could potentially be doing here.
Yeah, literally, Pat's never had to play a road playoff game.
Never. So yeah, they hit the panic button because their path to the Super Bowl is drastically different this year than what they're used to. And their play style this year is drastically different than what they're used to. It's new and scary.
It's new and scary. I love everybody, including Connor. Connor, thank you for the super chat. Getting into the comments to debunk your theories about grass. Wembley, England's soccer team stadium, is grass and host gigs, including the Eras Tour. FYI, so it's definitely still possible.
That's
this
true.
Reminds me of
Wembley
like
hosts everything.
Yeah, this reminds me of like when Americans argue why, like, decent available healthcare isn't possible, and like everybody from the rest of the world goes, "Yo, no, we have that." Like, no, we have that.
Some Danish dude will come in here and be like, "Wait, you guys pay for that?"
Yeah. So thank you, Connor, for that. Also for saying that 3/4 of Malcolm Kuhn's sacks this year also have a forced fumble. So apparently if he gets to the quarterback, the ball's coming loose. Yeah.
Peanut punching.
Yep. Appreciate you, Connor.
Any stadium that is hosting a World Cup game has to be a grass field.
Yeah. They just don't put up with it. Like, it's real easy. They're just like,
so what's SoFi gonna do?
Doesn't SoFi have 2 fields, or do they just have the synthetic field? I thought they had both.
Well, so I know in their infinite wisdom when they built the damn thing, knowing that they were going to do Olympics and World Cup, for whatever reason, they didn't build the lower the field level wide enough to be regulation for a soccer field. So they have to basically cover up the lower bowl of stands to build a platform to then have a proper size field. So it's possible they're going to do some sort of grass field on a platform on top of the lower bowl. I don't fucking know. I'm not an engineer. It's not my job. It's somebody else's problem. But what's interesting is there was a thread from Joe Pomp a while ago that was talking about the bids between all the stadiums for hosting the World Cup final, like all the stadiums in America for hosting the World Cup final, between SoFi, MetLife, and Jerry World.
Yeah.
And the only one that fit all the requirements for not just size and dimensions and everything like that, but also for capacity. Like apparently there's a regulation for capacity of the stadium that has to be for a World Cup final. Jerry World was the only one that fit. And so SoFi, even though they built it thinking in their head that they were going to host opening and closing ceremonies, World Cup finals, like CONCACAF, all this kind of shit, they didn't build it the proper dimensions to actually host that stuff. And they spent like $4.5 billion on it. And it's like, dude, what?
That is, yes, that is a very NFL centric way to see anything.
It's like, Stan, did your architects not check like what the rules are?
They did not. Like, I was going to say, spoiler alert, they did not. The narrator, no, the engineers did not check.
Zachary for $2. So Staley is fired now, right? You can't keep him. Well, with each passing touchdown, I think it's becoming more and more likely. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, it's getting worse and worse. Okay, 70. Oh, Will Clapp, the center.
What?
Getting carted off.
Man. See, that's what you want to avoid in a game like this, right?
That was the only thing we said. Oh, Brendan Hymas coming in.
Still though, that sucks.
Well, no, there is no way that I'm not trying to silver lining anything. Like, it is not cool. It's a one thing. Oh no. Drink what you're gonna. Like, I don't know, bleach.
I still
if you're a
have some of
Chargers
this
fan, like
poison
hemlock,
left.
like that seems like bleach. Okay, like
It's starting to not taste good now.
starting to. It is. We are 30 seconds in to the fourth quarter, and the Raiders have hung 62 on the Chargers.
To go back to the previous question, when I said with each passing touchdown, it's more likely that he gets let go.
Dude, look at the catch, though. Holy crap.
No, it's a phenomenal play. It's the same play that Emmanuel Forbes made last year.
I understand, but he freaking looked like Jordan doing it. He's like, I'm going to do the like, foul line dunk.
Crazy pick six. Holy
right?
Shit. That's cool.
I don't want to lose the fact that we're still getting amazing performances. I'm just going to mention that it is only from one side. Which
was that Jack Jones?
Rugged.
I think that was Jack Jones.
Was it?
Yeah.
18. Who's 18? Let's see.
Because Antonio Pierce, he coached him in high school, I believe, and like heavily recruited him. And Antonio Pierce is like a mentor of his.
Yeah, it's Jack Jones. Absolutely.
God, go Jack. Good job.
That's an incredibly athletic play. Like, get out of here.
Good for him. Didn't work out in New England,
have
for
your
various
moment,
reasons,
man.
But...
Yeah, and lots of guys don't find ultimate success at their first stop. Some guys are on their fourth. I mean, look at Raheem Mostert. Bears legend Raheem Mostert.
What was it, like 7th year before he finally broke out?
Sometimes, and usually it's like kickers for sure typically take several stops before they hit, but they're not the only ones. There's corners, there's running backs, there's defensive linemen. It doesn't matter. Offensive linemen for sure go to one place, don't mesh with the system or a coach, go to another place. And they're like, look, we liked you coming out of the draft. Let's go, and turn into, very valuable starters. So good for him making a play on a big stage. That's the most athletic pick. Like, is that a category even? We're making up categories at this point. Like, most athletic pick I've seen, like, behind the line ever, maybe. Like, that was usually it's just you throw it to a big guy and you're like, he won't catch it, and he does. That was, come on, flying through the air one-handed. Like, give me a break.
Dame B for $2 says, "Ooh, give the Eagles Wiggins." Ooh, I got to do my proper ghost voice there.
Does it really even? Does Howie even need that kind of help? Because
no, it's gonna happen.
Just
he'll do his dark magic and get him anyway. Although he doesn't play for Georgia, so
difficult. I mean, Alabama's another one because like he does love his Alabama corners.
Lad McConkey, you are a Philadelphia Eagle.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Army Strong 19. I like Staley when he came in, but he's got to be gone, right? Go Texans. Yes. He's gone. The only question is how quick is how quickly. Like you don't survive this. You just don't.
No, there's nothing left. Like, your quarterback's out for the year. The rest of the team who is not out for the year does not believe in you at this point because you just got like whooped on by a team that is maybe going to the playoffs. Like, it's a very outside shot. Like, no, this is not getting steamrolled by an NFL power. This is, getting steamrolled by a team that you expected to be competitive with, and you gave up 62 in basically 3 quarters. Like,
chat saying the World Cup game at SoFi got pulled. I thought they were just restricted to semifinal at the max. I didn't think that they pulled everything.
Oh,
that's a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
A huge part of the reason why they even built that stadium was for World Cup games.
Yeah, but the engineers forgot to check.
That's insanity. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. It's going to be a hit to the economy because of that.
Yep.
Holy shit. Wow. Because they were supposed to be one of like the tentpole stadiums for the whole damn thing.
Yep. Agreed.
Wow. That's crazy. I wonder if that means they can't host Olympic games or Olympic soccer games either. Interesting.
Yeah.
Clint Kubiak to the Steelers. Who says no? I say yes.
Couldn't hurt.
Anybody who's been within that general Kubiak Shanahan tree, yes, I say yes.
Yeah.
Way better than what they have.
I heard an interesting one for the Steelers today. I believe it was actually Chase Daniel and Robert Mays on their, I think it's the Under Center podcast. Don't quote me. I got the name wrong probably. But they were talking about destinations, possible destinations for Justin Fields if he does get traded. And Atlanta came up, of course. And Robert brought up the Steelers. And he said, I think that would be really interesting. And give me like Clint Kubiak, the Steelers, and Justin throw into some of those wide. I was like, oh, okay.
You could talk me into that.
You have my attention. Right? It's Cordell Stewart, except when the NFL is ready for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would love that.
Yeah, it would be interesting. So I thought that was a cool idea. I hadn't heard that one yet. Falcons, of course, get brought up all the time because Justin's from Georgia, and he would be a good fit in that offense as well on top of that. But that one you're going to hear a ton. The Steelers I had not yet heard. That was an original idea, and I was like, ooh, yeah.
Hen Dog 1000 for $10. Thank you for coming back another week, Hen Dog. Appreciate you as always. He said, are we watching Staley slowly getting closer to being launched into the sun? I don't know. I don't think it's slowly. Into the sun, maybe launched into the Earth's core.
Yeah, I don't think it's slowly at this point. Like that train has been picking up steam all night, and the boiler's about to pop. They are at max. It is
already there.
Yeah, no, this train is hustling down the tracks, going downhill. It is going to be, I would say, impossible at this point to stop. You would have to ply me with large amounts of alcohol and sit me down for a couple of hours tomorrow in the morning before I was fully awake and explain it to me like I was 5 as to why there was any reason to keep him or any possibility to keep him. Like, how do you justify that? And if you can't do it to me, you're definitely not going to be able to do it to your ticket holders. Like, I just don't know how that's possible at this point. I think it is impossible at this point, to be completely fair.
Thank you once again, Hen Dog, for that one. Curtis Rogers also for $2. Hey, Easton Stick on a little run. Curtis for $2. Does this game get Adams to stay with the Raiders? You know, I think it's for everybody in the Raiders organization. I think this is a solidifying moment where they realize what they could have been with proper leadership from the very beginning, right? And no, they're not going to score 63, 70 points every single game. But like, they are playing at their potential tonight. And I think a lot of the players in the offseason realized that they had potential, but they didn't believe in their head coach at the time to get them there. And I think they believe in Antonio to get them there. And I think that Devontae can sense that as well. Oh, fucking
yeah, this is not pretty.
And so I think this is a good building block game for not just the rest of this year, but also for next year too, because it shows the players what they are capable of. And that also translates to Devontae seeing what this team is capable of. They're not that far off. Like, they're really not. Like, they're not all the way there, but they are not the disaster that they were for the first 6 weeks of this season. Like, that is not them. This is a more realistic depiction of what they are. I'm not saying it's the most realistic, but this is more realistic than the September Raiders that we saw. Now, whether or not that convinces Devontae to give it another shot in 2024, we'll see. But it's a compelling case. It really is.
It's very difficult to hate on Aiden O'Connell if you're Devontae, because you got a quarterback that's going to give you chances. Like, if you're open or even, he's going to throw it to you. And that's compelling as a wide receiver. Now, is it, do they have the best chemistry on the team. No, that seems to be Michael Mayer in terms of like, a favorite receiver, but he will go to receivers, covered or open, and he's certainly not afraid to throw it to Devontae. Devontae showed obvious frustration earlier this season when he was open and Jimmy G wouldn't even look at him. That's got to be a tick in his favor. And, maybe that changes if the Raiders decide to bring in a rookie quarterback and Devontae doesn't want to do the growing pains thing. I could certainly see that being difficult. But if they say, hey, we're going to stock some pieces and we are, okay. I'm sorry, possibly the first bright light for the Chargers all night. And yes, I saw the completion to QJ earlier. It was not anywhere near that good.
It's something. It's
another great throw by Stick.
Great catch by Palmer.
Yeah, that is the other Palmer touchdown. Like people would say, "Oh, didn't you see the Palmer touchdown?" No. Look, Amik stopped.
It was a busted coverage.
It's not hard to run straight and catch the ball. I mean, some wide receivers would have you believe it is, but it's not. That was a tremendous degree of difficulty, both on the throw and the catch. Oh, all right. Suddenly, life. Come on.
We're being so positive.
This is the first really good stuff we've seen them do 2 plays in a row. Come on, give me a break. Those are both great throws.
All right, only 50 points to go, gang.
Yeah,
let's go.
Get the orange slices.
8.5 minutes, 50 points. We can do it. Raiders did.
So pre-snap motion, they get him unbalanced. He just throws to leverage. Like he gets it in there before the other player comes in. Like, all right, like you don't have to make it hard.
Well, I mean,
they've been doing it all night.
They've been doing it all night, man.
They've been doing it all night.
Making it as hard as possible.
Credit to Easton Stick for not just mailing it in. That's 2 good throws in a row. The first one was a great throw. Over coverage down there in what would typically be the cover 2 hole, not the cover 2 hole in that particular defense. Over the fingertips in front of the sideline, layered in there. That great throw.
Love how a lot of the super chats now are just Brandon Staley. Kodiak for $5 is Brandon Staley on the sideline. So all of his various emotions. Hen Dog again. Does Staley make it back to LA or does Spanos fire him on the spot after the game?
Other owners would. Owners would for sure.
Sakito for $5. Just checking into the game right now. Brett, please explain what the fuck happened. Dude, I don't even have how many hours you got?
Yeah, I mean, a bomb went off and then the Chargers scored a couple touchdowns late. Like everything that could go wrong for the Chargers offensively or defensively throughout the entire first half did. And then they showed a little bit of life coming out of the locker room. And then all the bad stuff started happening again. You have, big guy touchdowns for the Raiders, running back fumbles, crazy interceptions, run back for scores. Like if, this is the Murphy's Law game for the Chargers. Can go wrong, will go wrong.
Echo says, so Kellen Moore announced by noon tomorrow as the interim head coach. Also, does the solid sounded
I think you mean
solidify Antonio Pierce as a head coach candidate next year? I would say it solidifies Antonio Pierce as the head coach, like not a candidate, as the head coach for next year. Like I think this game, like he's gonna get the job now. How do you not? Just kind of like how the negative effect it has on
sides of the coin, right?
Like
as
how
bad as it is for Staley, it's as good for Pierce.
He's gonna get the job.
Yeah, because owners hate being embarrassed and owners love whooping up on other teams. Like, don't tell me they don't go to the owners meeting and be like, oh yeah, we hung 62 on you. What do you gotta say? Like they do. This is why these guys own these teams. It's bragging rights.
Solid a snake for 08. Wow, Brett. Holy shit.
Whoosh. That Splenda's really getting to you.
Yeah, that's the part that's doing it. As a Seahawks doomer, is it time to move on from Pete? He is constantly getting outcoached by Shanahan McVay. Gino is a good bridge quarterback, though. I don't know if they're going to get rid of Pete. I do think it's more likely they get rid of Waldron, but then it's like, okay, but who are you going to get to replace Waldron? So I think it's less likely they do a full teardown and more so they change out OC. And that's what's hard about Seattle is they're kind of in a spot in the middle of the first round where they're not going to get one of the top 3 quarterbacks to give themselves an option other than Geno anyway. They're not going to be in a spot for really any of the blue chip talents unless they trade up, which means they're probably, God, who would even go at that range? Like their best case scenario is a Dunze, I guess, but like you don't even need a receiver, but it depends on what they want to do with Lockett in the offseason. They could still get assets for DK. Like I'm not advocating for it. I'm just I'm working through all the possibilities of how do we manage or how do we balance cap space with draft assets with maintaining the strength of the one of the few strengths of the offense we have, which is the receiving core. Like I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of shakeup there just because the middle of the first round is kind of where you want to attack that. I guess the break glass of case of emergency pick is Johnny Newton. Not that they really need him, but yeah, I don't know. The Seahawks are in a weird spot. Like they're too good to rebuild, but they're not good enough to compete with the top of the NFC right now. It's just tough. To answer your question, though, I'm not sure they move on from Pete.
Yeah, that sentiment has been growing over the last 7 to 10 days. Like it's been a drumbeat before several times. It's been louder than this in the past at certain times, but that drumbeat has been absent for a while, and it has popped up in multiple channels, multiple outlets, not even being whispered, just being spoken about openly, which is, again, not something that's been present here in the local market. And over the last week, like you're starting to hear it. Like it's time. We're getting the same results year after year. Got to have, new blood, new approach, new offense. We're too good to be in this hole. Like if anything, last year's sort of early success in the rebuild process kind of doomed them because it was going to be difficult to replicate that. Everybody hoped they were just going to build on it. Again, assuming that progress is linear. They had another great draft there. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And because they have not achieved the same heights, because look, the NFL is tough and it loves parity. You're starting to hear, well, he didn't even do as good as last year. And he has more players now. And a lot of people are tired of it. They are used to a standard of success. Other teams, other fan bases would be plenty happy with where the Seahawks are in their rebuild. Seattle fans are starting to hear it. Oh no, there's a flag. Oh no.
It's so Chargers. They're gonna call that one back.
Oh man, Darius Davis doing Darius Davis things. Like one of the reasons he was drafted is because he had a high level of return skills. He was certainly not brought on to be a frontline receiver right away. That's not what they wanted him for. With where they got him, they wanted some juice in their special teams. They get it, but they get. Oh wow.
Is it a hold? Is that what it is?
Yeah, kind of. He didn't want the punter to get him, so the return team blocker.
Yeah.
I was going to say the defender, but the return team blocker like dives into him, but he just grabs a little bit of the back of his jersey at the same time to like pull him down, just give him a little bit of weight to his right foot to keep him out of the line of fire. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on whose side you're on, the ref was right there to see it. It was pretty obvious. You get a handful of jersey off the back, like you're getting a flag.
One more note, by the way, on Seahawks, which is why I think like receiver isn't entirely out of the question again for the second year in a row. They do save $17 million if Tyler Lockett is designated as a post June 1 cut, and they're only at $3 million in projected cap space right now. So they got to make some moves, and Tyler Lockett's like one of the more possible ones, as crazy as it sounds to.
If Pete stays, he's not going.
I know he loves Tyler.
No, I'm saying I'll put the stake in the ground right now. If Pete stays, Tyler Lockett's not going anywhere.
It's interesting to me how like Pete has his guy. He's always had his guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of my criticisms of Pete is he will be loyal to a fault sometimes.
Sometimes.
For too many years. And I love Tyler. I really do. But if I had to choose between Tyler Lockett and $17 million in cap space for a team that has no space in this receiver class, in this economy,
this economy, I knew it was coming.
It's kind of an easy choice for me.
I'm saying it's an easy choice for you. It's an impossible choice for a guy like Pete, and he will not make that one. He will make a bunch of others, but Tyler Lockett is, for lack of a better term, Mr. Seahawk. Like, if you had to pick one current Seahawk right now, and you would pick Bobby on defense and you would pick Tyler on offense. And I don't think there's anybody that would debate that. So that guy, yes, he's 31 years old. I don't know. He's only got 700 yards this season, 65 catches, 700 yards, still averaging about 11 a catch, 4 touchdowns. Not the player in terms of impact that he has been over any of the last seasons. Certainly his lowest season yet. We're not done with the season either. Like, he could easily pick up another 250 yards and be right there near 1,000. But in terms of like what he means to the team, what he means to the city, how he's been as a player throughout his entire tenure, like, I know it's a lot of money. I know it makes a lot of financial sense. I also know, like, if Pete's here, that won't happen. If Pete goes, probably the first move that gets made, because you got to rebuild. You got to have money to bring in your guys. Like, it's easy to say, hey, go apply the last couple of years of your career somewhere else. For a new coach, that's not a problem. It doesn't have that loyalty. But if Pete stays, I would be stunned. Now, does Tyler take a reduction in salary to finish up as a Seahawk? That actually I could see happening. Take a reduced deal.
He would have to. Like, they need money. They really do.
I get it, but yeah.
Jaden Norris, Brett, how does your personnel dictate your coverage scheme? For example, cover 1 versus cover 2 versus cover 3 versus quarters, etc. So first of all, interesting question. I would say in modern defenses, it kind of used to be like, oh, you have your rangy free safety that's going to hang out in the post in the back end, and you've got that big Camp Chancellor type who's basically a quasi linebacker, right? Who's going to be your strong safety. Modern defenses, there's not that much of a distinction anymore. It's just strong safety and weak safety, but they look the same, because defenses want the ability to rotate both ways. They want the ability to move guys around pre and post snap and not be so predictable in their rotations. And they also want to have the ability to play quarters, which you need safeties that can basically play from a 12-yard shelf and carry a vertical from a flat-footed posture, be able to turn and burn with it. And safeties have to be able to do that in quarters. You can't play quarters. And so that's why you see a lot of safeties these days that either have prior experience playing corner or in a lot of cases playing nickel. So they have experience kind of handling two-way goes in space. Javon Holland was one of those guys. Eddie Jackson was one of those guys. And it's
Brian Branch.
Like, it's a skill set that's necessary if you want to play quarters, because you're essentially just playing slot from further off, and you still have to be able to come from depth and play the run. Like, safety in that style of system is extraordinarily difficult. And it's also extraordinarily difficult to build a team for that, because you need not just one, but you need two, arguably three, if you also count the nickel, who oftentimes is basically going to be a safety skill set anyway. As for cover 1, I would say if you have the ability to play quarters, that means you also have the ability to play cover 1. If you have the ability to play cover 1, doesn't necessarily mean you have the ability to play quarters. It really depends on what your safeties can do. And also what your linebackers can do. As for cover 2, that's a little bit different, because I think it depends on the kind of cover 2 you want to play. If you want to play that old, like Dungy, Marinelli style cover 2 where you got these big hulking corners, the Peanut Tillmans on the outside. They're just going to beat the snot out of you at the line of scrimmage, disrupt your release, jam, then sink. That's a style of cover 2 that a lot of teams, even to this day, will like to play. And then you got the cover 2 where it's really kind of the more, say, Asante Samuel Sr. types, where they're not necessarily going to jam and redirect. They're going to play more from space and then start off from a deeper position so that they can T-step and drive on stuff underneath. And it's less about redirecting and more so about just playing the ball. So there's different styles of cover 2, and really you're going to play whatever style is dictated by the types of corners that you have. I hope that answered your question. The best coaches play the types of coverage that their guys can do.
Agreed. I would say that's the Cliff Notes version. Our buddy JP Acosta came through. Largest halftime lead in NFL history was in 2009. The Pats were up 45-0 over the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, I forgot about that game. Yeah.
Thank you, JP. We appreciate that.
Good
and
Lord. That's tough.
Yeah. Well, Chargers putting together a drive doesn't mean anything at this particular point, but guys are still out there. They know film is film, even if it's not necessarily for whoever's going to be coaching the Chargers next year. It'll be for whoever else is looking to give them a contract. Like, hey, you were down 50 points. Did you still put your nose down and try and, burrow through tackle attempts? Or, Antonio Pierce still fired up. He is not pleased, which is pretty interesting considering he is up by 50. I appreciate that. But, I think anybody who's played sports has been in a situation like this where you're just getting mollywopped. Like you're done. And there's 2 ways to go. You can either pack it in and do nothing and loaf, or you can just keep driving. You know you're going to lose, but you can also make a couple more plays.
Keep in mind, Antonio Pierce, when he was a high school coach, once won a game by 90. So that's the standard that he's measuring this game against, and he is not satisfied.
Nope. He is going to demand excellence. And that's going to go on his coaching resume is, up by 50 and still barking at guys, trying to get perfection. And, I think all football coaches know they're not going to achieve perfection, but hell, if you stand in the way of them trying to get it.
Bobby Gruner for $5 says, I hope the Raiders score enough points to force a widening of the scoregami grid. The 73-0 by the Bears is the current record. I'm feeling confident. Yeah. Well, if the Chargers did just bleed off a bunch of clocks so that everybody could go home, I would agree with you. But it doesn't look like they're going to be able to at this point.
I don't know. Not writing it off.
Curtis Rogers says, some drunk guy who took the -50 instead of the -5 Raiders line is having a hell of a night right now. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good. Urban Meyer.
Oh, there you go.
Meyer to the Chargers.
Oh, wait a minute.
Please no, Colin.
Oh, okay. QJ gets his touchdown, but boy, I would have. I know it's meaningless, but boy, I would have really liked him to hang on to that ball at the end. Like, I know it's still a touchdown. I know they're not even going to review it, but like, just because
everybody's trying to get out of here, man.
Yeah, just because of who he is, I would have liked to see him hang on to that ball at the end.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, 2:38 left in this game. Thankfully, the second half went by a lot quicker than the first half.
The second quarter was monstrous.
The second quarter was like an hour long.
It was monstrously long. Not going to lie. But I don't know. I've had a hell of a lot more fun during this game than I thought I was going to have. I realized that it was like excruciating for Chargers fans. This has been more entertaining than most things I could have imagined for this game earlier today.
Yes, excruciating for Chargers fans, but I would say once you hit 35-0, you're just along for the ride at that point. And,
you're just looking for Jack Jones athletic interceptions at that point.
You just want to see how high the number can go when you get there,
Yep.
It's a carnival ride at that point.
I feel good for Raiders fans. I'll put in a plug for Raiders fans. When we went to the opening in the stadium, well, not the opening of the stadium. The first game that was played in the stadium with full stands after COVID was Ravens Raiders Monday night game, opening week of the season a couple of years ago. And we, it was early season, so it was blisteringly hot outside. We had to go through all the COVID protocols and the tents and everything. And, but we, because of that, spent a long time sort of wandering through the parking lots in and amongst Raiders fans. And Raiders fans certainly have a rep, which can be, maybe not the greatest. And I found that to be like completely opposite of fact. Have been in tailgates and parking lots in stadiums all around the country, and Raiders fans were flat out awesome. They were really
amazing.
Great. They were super welcoming, really friendly. They love their team, make no doubt, but there were not any angry words said towards Ravens fans. There was teasing and chiding, but it was very good natured. They were extremely welcoming to us. We weren't really showing, either loyalty. And it was, it was a really good scene. And look, a lot of those Raiders fans are transplants because the Raiders have been in Oakland. They've been in Los Angeles. They've been in Las Vegas. Like, there are Raider fans that come from all over the country because Las Vegas is really easy to get to. And it's this huge sort of melting pot. And they all just really love the Raiders. And they were awesome to hang out with. Like, it might have been the biggest disparity between sort of the public perception of how their fandom is and their actual observing their fans in their natural habitat that I've had in the NFL. Love Raiders fans. It was great. It was awesome.
It was one big party, probably because it's right across from the Vegas Strip, so everybody felt like they were in one big party. But
sure.
Also, by the way, just stadium location wise, and I'm such a stadium snob now after experiencing games at Lumen.
Yeah.
Like I am the snootiest
wait a minute.
guy.
Hang on. In and out right there.
Oh yeah. There's an In-N-Out right there.
The In-N-Out that we stop at before we go to Allegiant right there.
I guarantee that line's going to be like apocalyptic after this game. But like I am I don't even want to say stadium connoisseur. I am a stadium snob after Lumen just because it's so easy to get in and out of.
Yeah.
The train literally drops you off at the stadium. You could stay in downtown and walk over. Like it's so easy. And I compare that to SoFi, which is a living nightmare to drive in and out of, right? There's no public transportation. It's horrible. Like if you park at SoFi, you're not leaving the parking lot for like 90 minutes till after the game. Like it's rough. But Allegiant is in that Lumen category for me in terms of ease. Because if you walk over the bridge, like if you're at Luxor or Mandalay or whatever, any of those hotels, like in that half of the strip, it's a 15-minute walk. Like literally a 15-minute walk. So you can go over to the tailgate, you can get bombed and like enjoy yourself at the game, walk home. Like, you don't have to deal with like figuring out where to pick up an Uber, let alone driving home. Like, no. You can enjoy yourself and have a great time and then walk back to your hotel and keep having a great time on the Vegas Strip. Like it's perfect. It is so perfect. It's one of the best game day weekend experiences in the NFL. Like by far, it's awesome there. And that's why they sell out every single game, because away fans want to go to games there.
Yeah, for sure. If you live, up north right now, it's starting to get cold. Leaves are all gone. It's starting to freeze and you're getting snow flurries and you're like, oh, I can go to a game in Vegas in December. Like, yeah, it's straight flight for most major, hubs and plenty of hotel options, plenty of rental options, whatever you want to do. Obviously lots of entertainment, food, shows, whatever it is, easy access to the stadium. Stadium is brilliant. Like inside, it's gorgeous. They've got this view from the torch end of the stadium. They keep showing pictures of the big torch. If you stand up on that concourse behind that torch and look out the windows, it's all the mountains. Mm-hmm. It's just a beautiful, beautiful place. I would encourage everybody to check out a game there. It's a lot of fun. Town's a lot of fun. It's not hard to get to. And hey, if you're a Raiders fan, you might get to see them go up by 50. Holy cow.
Daniel is correct. Petco Park is a really good stadium for public transit. The trolley leaves you blockish away. So I've gone to many things at Petco over the years. Again, I'm an LA guy, and well, Orange County, then LA guy, and San Diego is very, very accessible, right? Not a short drive. It's not like a hop, skip, and a beat away like a lot of people think California is. Like, no, we have to drive a while to get there. But I've gone to many things at Petco, and it's one of my favorite ballparks in America because it's like right there next to Gaslamp and all the restaurants, bars, and everything. And you just walk into the stadium. I went to a taco fest there last year. There's literally a taco
and
festival.
Tequila Fest.
Yes.
Yes.
It's awesome. It's so cool.
Okay. 63 points tonight by the Raiders, most by a team in Thursday night football history.
Yikes.
That's
yikes.
Yeah. And the last week against the Vikings, they had 0 points. Okay.
Ooh. I was going to say they
that is the
they
biggest
basically made up
week. Yeah.
They made up for over the last 2 weeks, they're averaging 31 and a half points.
Game. Yeah. Like that's amazing. Also amazing. Like 15 minutes ago, we had over 800 people in this stream
for this game
in the fourth quarter of a blowout late in the season on Thursday Night Football. Can't thank all of you enough for hanging out, checking us out. If you're not subscribed to Bootleg Football, that logo right up there, go over to the Bootleg Football channel right now. Just click subscribe. It'll really help us out, helps us get all the content that we like to make out there. Certainly more people enjoying it, but hey, for hanging out on a Thursday night game that did not look awesome, that turned out to be a lot of fun, thank you very much.
We have a new Bootleg episode coming out tomorrow over on the Bootleg channel, breaking down the Lions, Dolphins, and Eagles struggles, as well as touching a little bit on Cleveland's injuries. So if you guys like existential crises, which clearly you do if you spent this long in this stream, make sure to check out that episode. It'll be out sometime middle of the day-ish. Anyway, thank you for being here for so long. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Take care.